The Mad Dash. Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 16th of October, 2022. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Lad Mad Dash.
And Robert Kemp.
Lad?
Well, it sounded like you said La Mad Dash.
Le Mad.
Le Mad. Bon.
Are you a mad lad, or are you just a glad lad?
Or a bad lad.
The glad lads and the bad lads.
Or any of these other words that fit that scheme.
Vlad, the bad lad.
Vlad the bad lad.
From Vladislav.
Bad effort.
Vladivostok?
Yeah.
Is that where the Vlads come from?
Or anything.
Probably.
I mean, I could have picked a real place like Stalingrad, I guess. Or
Vladivostok's real.
yeah,
Does grad mean city, I presume?
Probably.
I guess. Yeah.
Leningrad, Stalingrad. Vladivostok, though, is that like a town of Vlads?
Where all the students live, isn't it? Undergrad.
Undergrad, yeah.
The
Postgrad.
undergrad
The undergrad. I am undergrad.
Mad undergrad lad.
You're not technically. Are you postgrad when you've just done a degree and but you haven't done like a doctorate?
No, you have to be studying for
To be a postgrad.
To be a postgrad, yeah.
Oh, I'm gradless at the moment.
Yeah, we're not studying, so we're not undergrads or
Sans grad.
postgrads. We're sans grad. I mean,
Degrad.
degrad. It's very degrading.
I play a lot of anti-grad racing games.
Is that the only place where gravity is abbreviated to grav?
Grav
Anti-grav
lifts.
racing? Or only in sci-fi is
Only in video
gravity
games.
abbreviated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or G, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's the most abbreviation.
It's not called grav
G.
force, is it?
No, it's G-force, yeah. Could be grav force.
Grav and go.
You just don't understand the grav of the situation.
I mean, I'm sure, hippies are having a bit of a smoke. Have probably gone yeah,
He's
man,
having
you
a
just don't understand the grav, man.
I don't know if I have.
Grav.
You're saying you just don't get it. Gravity is just you just don't get it.
Just like
Man.
magnets.
What is
That's
grav?
how they work. To be fair, I mean we don't have a theory of quantum gravity, so I mean we don't really get it. Doesn't seem to work.
Although
with,
arguably, you just we don't get a lot of things in terms of quantum. It's that's the big problem. We understand a whole shit ton of stuff non-quantum, and we understand quantum, and then there's this big gap in the middle where they don't line up.
where they don't work together.
Yeah, and also it's one of those fields, isn't it, where the technology claims made about quantum are they're yay, we solved a problem, and it's yeah, but it's not really a problem for anything else. Didn't someone recently be all hey, we've made quantum security a thing. They're we can now crypto things with quantum, and then a somewhat mediocre PC was yeah, I cracked it.
Really? I hadn't heard any of that.
Yeah, I can't remember it in full. It was a while back, but I'm sure it came.
I thought
up
that was the whole point of quantum cryptography. Was it is uncrackable? It's just completely impractical.
Yeah, I guess it was not well done. I don't know.
The thing is, isn't it that normal cryptography is
Destroyed.
uncrackable? Yeah, it's destroyed by quantum.
Theoretically,
but, but without quantum, it's uncrackable within provided you do things sensibly, and it's uncrackable within a practical timescale of
Sure.
the age of the universe or something.
Yeah,
like
the
that.
probability of you cracking it within a sensible time frame, anyway.
Yeah, but that gets broken by the quantum stuff because it can do all possible things in one move, basically. But it's just impractical to actually make a quantum computer currently. But they're we factored a single prime with this gigantic lab or whatever. Yeah,
This super cooled series of tubes.
yeah. But it's yeah. But that would be bizarre. Imagine if like I think it'll be a bit like fusion power plants, in that like theoretically it's a great idea, but it will take like 100 years to figure out the technology.
Yeah,
I think that'll be similar.
You see that thing that they apparently actually did achieve a self-sustaining fusion reaction, but
like a positive output.
But they don't know how they did it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where was that? Like the jet tours or whatever?
I can't remember where, but like, yeah, they the numbers all read as like, yeah, this was actually working, but we can't do it again. There's there is something special about this one run that they
weird
that they don't know, and
they don't know what was special about it.
They don't know what was special about it. Yeah, like running it in is as close to damn it as close as far as we know, the exact same scenario. It's not happening.
Because they are building a gigantic new one in France, right? Aren't they? I think, but that's still years away. They have been for years. Yeah, it's still not finished, though, is it?
No.
So give it another
ITER, right? Is that the one?
Give it another 100 years. They might have figured out how they did it in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. But that's why I think it's like some technologies evolve faster than you'd think, and then other ones like fusion, like there's been a theoretical, people have been trying to make fusion work for 50 years already, I presume, and it's going to be another 50 before we actually get power plants. I think it'll be the same with quantum computing. So your secrets are safe.
Maybe, but I feel like in quantum's case, like there's more opportunities to do little bits of it. Like with fusion, you only have fusion or you don't.
Yeah,
there's no half steps on that.
That's true.
The whole problem has to be solved, otherwise you're boned. Yeah, quantum they are figuring out tiny details, like super tiny details.
Well, I also meant that you could make very small scale bits of quantum computer that would still be useful.
Yeah,
you don't have to make an entire quantum computer that functions just like a regular computer or anything.
That could run Windows. Yeah.
Right. Do you think you'll have a little quantum cryptography chip in every phone or whatever in 10 years' time?
Integrated onto like network cards or something.
Mm. Yes. I mean, there's already like dedicated cryptography chips, aren't there?
Oh, sure. And HSMs and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or point a camera at a lava lamp. The classic.
Sure.
Why? What does that do?
Well, I forget.
Is it just a random generator?
Well, yeah, it's like you can generate. It's essentially random number generator, but just it's a visual random number generator where you just take a video of a bunch of lava lamps and then just take the video file as code, and there you have a basically hella infinite random number generator.
Surely, like just pointing a camera and getting the noise map of it is like
pointing a camera at anything.
Yeah,
I mean, you can get it from like Brownian motion, can't you? Inside.
I mean, that is basically what lava lamps are, right?
It's
basically
just slow Brownian. Yeah,
human scale Brownian motion, basically.
Yeah, that's not like the classic example in school where you just get like a whole bunch of marbles, right, and then jiggle them around a bit.
This is Rob's science class. Just take these marbles and jiggle them.
Jiggling marbles.
It's a decent visual representation, right?
Sort of.
Well, like, because you can make them like two, like blue on one half and red on the other half, jiggle them about a bit, and then you see them diffuse, and it's like, oh yeah,
that's not Brownian motion. Though. You need it's small marbles and big marbles for Brownian, because you need the big marbles get jiggled by the small marbles. Is the idea, right? Diffusion is slightly different. I mean, I guess diffusion can also technically.
I mean, it's in the same ballpark.
Yes, it's similar. That's your second lesson. You bring the marbles back for the.
Well, I guess you do diffusion first, right? Yes. Diffusion is the easiest thing to understand, and then
when it's all the same size.
Yeah.
I don't remember all that many like demonstrations in physics class.
Man, I'm sure we had loads.
Physics teachers and what school you went to.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I remember almost at least every other lesson being a demo of some kind, but like I can't remember most of them because whatever, it's like 25 years ago or however long it's been now. But
I don't really remember that much physics demonstrations, really.
Like the classic light slits and lasers and I don't know. I suppose our school had fun with radioactive gear.
Did you actually do the young slit experiment?
No, we had one big one set up.
I think I did it. Like, I think we had multiple light boxes in that one time. Oh, that's cool.
I would have liked to have done the stupid slits.
Well, I mean, we had it set up for real. We didn't individually do it, but we had one set up.
But I mean, I don't know. What's the actual point of doing it when you can just be told that that's what happened? I don't know.
To prove that it actually happens.
Yeah, I suppose.
It kind of helps.
It's an engagement thing, right? That's all any education needs is engagement.
Yeah, it's true. A kid's going to be engaged by shining a light through two slits? I suppose they are.
Look at the pretties!
Look at the pattern.
Having any physical object in a class is pretty engaging.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. Yeah, it's true.
Like, I don't know, we had vacuum stuff, right? Like, you must have vacuumed out things to be like, hey, this fire went out. What the shit's that about?
I
think we had a Van de Graaff generator at one point.
Yeah, we did.
Fun. Now that is fun.
Yeah, we had, but that came out quite a lot. Just for comedy.
That's like a non-lesson of the game. It's like, here's this cool thing. I think I
bring out the cool thing.
I don't think I had a vacuum until university, but then I was all about vacuums. So it's just like, here come these goddamn vacuums again.
Man, I can't remember what it was. Okay, like I can't remember what we were doing. I remember where I was doing it and all this stuff in physics, and I can't remember for what purpose. But I remember there was electronics of some, or the basics of like electronics.
Yeah.
But they had this like modular gear that was like not quite the same as like, do you remember back in like primary school or something? They had these big yellow Duplo blocks that had like an individual function.
And you had those wires that plug into the ports.
Yeah. So this was like an advanced version of that. Like they weren't just these enormous Duplo blocks, but they were like these little modules of things that you would then like effectively patch cable together to make things happen. There'd be like a timer on one thing. There'd be like a pin driven LED, like 7-segment like number display on one module and stuff like that. There were relay switches and all kinds of madness.
Like the mid step between the primary school version and like full breadboards.
Yeah, kinda. It was really rad, and the school never used it, as far as I can tell, for anything actually like curricular.
Anything important.
Yeah, so I found this kit in a drawer in the physics lab and was like, "What is this?" And we had something we were doing, and I can't remember what. And I just remember I as a kid not understanding what any of this stuff really was and just patching shit together, but like making something that actually had a sort of rhythmic click to it and made beeps every now and then, because it was like a timer module as well. And it was these relay switches were going clickety clickety click, and these other bits were going boop 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 boop, and I'm just like, this is sweet. I don't know what I'm doing, but this is sweet.
And then Rob became a musician.
Yeah. And then it caught fire.
Natural progression.
Oh, yes, obviously.
I was also in the same room that our physics teacher would go on about the virtues of burning chicken poo.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
For power.
I mean, it does happen. Biofuel fired stuff.
That and nuclear. He loved burning chicken poo and burning uranium. Oh. And then that one day when I was in a physics lesson and the school got struck by lightning, like the biggest Van de Graaff.
Nice.
Oh, that was fun.
Well, is that because
it was just a really loud bang, and then all the electric went off, and then the school was like, "What do we do?"
Did that just happen in the middle of a day?
Yeah, just casually.
Was it because there's like a metal roof on top of a tower? Or
yeah, that school was did have a tower, right? And it's
and it's quite high up as well.
I think it did.
Start with, right?
Yeah, I think it did have an intentional conductor on it, but clearly that wasn't enough.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
a tall building would have a lightning rod. You would hope.
Yeah, but it didn't do its job if the electrics went out.
It did not. No. Yes, that was fun. Well, I mean, it's fun as kids because you're just like, what the shit's going on? Oh, well, clearly we're not learning for a while.
Yep, can't see shit.
Can't wait to not learn.
Can't go outside, though.
We might get zapped. The sky's got light fingers. podcast about video games.
Maybe.
It sometimes is.
But there may or may not be light fingers involved.
The majority of it. Yeah. We don't suggest you're light-fingered with the games or or conducting any lightning into them. It's probably a bad idea.
Make sure you're earthed when you're fucking around with your insanely expensive PC.
Yes, use the stupid plastic strap thing with the metal conductor and attach it to the case with the little crocodile clip.
Or at very least, touch things.
Touch a radiator.
Yeah.
Touch an earthed thing while you're touching your other non-earthed thing.
Gotta be honest, I'm pretty blasé about working on my PC. I usually just do it on the floor on my back.
On the carpet.
On the carpet, yeah.
Yeah, the worst place.
Also, I mean, I could put my PC on this desk, but, this desk isn't designed for weight.
Well, no. I mean, you don't have to put it on.
No, I guess I'd take it to the kitchen if I had to really,
Yes, that's one of the times recently where I've been working on my PC. I'm just like, I just take it downstairs and put it on the table and be like, okay, now I've got some actual space to do things.
What work do you need to do on your PC these days, Egg?
Well, as I said last
Keep it
episode,
running.
I think it was like when I was cleaning out all the fans and re-oiling them, I was just like, I just need to take this downstairs so I can access all of the fans.
I've never really
Take them out of the case.
I've dusted and hoovered my PC. Hoovering probably not the best idea either.
No, also. But I have that.
And then I'm one of those spray can things.
Oh, yes.
One of the compressed air things.
Because they're kind of cool.
They are cool. Literally cool as well.
Increasingly
due
have
to
been
physics.
feeling like I need to blow out my graphics card, but that's the most annoying one.
Wow.
Like, especially
if you really want to get into that heatsink.
Yeah, all the other fans are totally fine. But it's like the graphics card one with its side vents and it's all integrated. And there's it's a tunnel that goes all the way through the whole length of the card, basically.
Oh, right. It's one of those designs. Okay. Yeah.
There's no way to tell whether you're even getting anything out of there because it's just you can blow it out.
I mean, you're not really supposed to take those apart particularly. So it's at least
but then again,
my giant heatsink on my CPU is much easier to get at. But because it's so large, it's that's also sort of a bit of a problem because it's well, I'm blowing into this thing, but it's because it's so big, it's not actually getting through the heatsink particularly well.
Yeah. And I always hate trying to take the fan off the front of my heatsink because that's always the worst. The way that heatsink fans are attached to the heatsink is always terrible with their goddamn spring-loaded arms that are attached to the metal of the heatsink and then hold the fan on the front.
Oh, I think mine's really easy. Mine's just rubber clips.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's better versions of that.
Yeah, I think you can just take the whole fan off super easy.
But it's it's because they use the metal spring clips to attach my one, and it's they're so firmly attached, it's really you really feel it flexing against the motherboard when you're trying to move it. It's I don't like this at all.
That's uncomfortable, yeah. I mean, I've had some moments where I've been with PCs where I've been hooking motherboards into cases and it's been flexing just as I'm trying to get them just screwing the motherboard to the case can sometimes be a bit funky. The holes for some reason on the board just don't seem quite right, which probably means the holes on the case aren't quite right.
Yes.
It's more likely to be that. But or even when you're just trying to, as we were talking about earlier before the podcast, just jam a graphics card in there, and sometimes they don't slide into their slots particularly well.
RAM.
Yeah, and the board's flexing underneath the card you're pushing in.
The worst thing about RAM is they have those it clips over to hold it in. And then when you're unclipping it, it's really hard initially, but if you can get it to go, it actually just levers itself out of the board as part of the thing.
Yeah.
It's it's super difficult to get it going, and then it's really easy.
Yeah, and then it just goes. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I managed to short a motherboard once. I'm not quite sure how, but I think it was to do it again, screwing the board onto the case, the little prop up bits, was somehow shorting a part of the board out, and so it wouldn't boot until I eventually sort of just took the whole thing off, put it back on again. Everything was happy. Probably not the best idea, but when it was, and then it never broke again, so I got lucky, I guess. But
okay.
But not this one. This PC's fine. It has mostly working USB.
Mostly.
like most, unlike for some reason, all of my previous builds where something has gone wrong on the USB.
I do remember back in the day, because I didn't know what I was doing with PCs, and my one broke at university, and I managed to figure out by, changing parts around and stuff that it was probably the motherboard out of all the things.
It's the worst realization when it's that, because it's just like, I might as well just build a brand new machine at this point.
So I actually replaced the motherboard, like I got a new motherboard, but I got the exact same one because I didn't know, because I just looked up the part. But of course the PC I bought, from Time or whatever it was, or one of those, and they'd got the cheapest motherboard they could, and that's the reason it broke in the first place, was because it was a piece of shit. But I replaced it with the same one because I didn't know what I was doing, which was like a 40 quid motherboard.
Hey, I mean, at the time that was reasonable, actually.
Yeah, I guess probably. Anyway, I plugged everything in, turned it on, and it caught fire.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, not like that dramatically, but one of the caps must have been bad. Yeah, smell of burning.
Oh, what, the new board?
Yeah, the new board. Yeah, the replacement, because the quality was just really bad. That was bad times.
I've never blown up a PC. I mean, Lightning has blown up a PC that I've owned before, but like when I was a kid, because phone lines, the modems and stuff like that back then.
Oh yeah, copper phone lines. Yeah,
Lightning fried one of our machines. But yeah, I've had too many disasters. Surprisingly, really. Thought a power supply would have exploded on me at this point, but power supplies are the things that I seem to struggle with. They seem to be the bits that go.
Yes. One of the bits that I've definitely replaced the most.
Yeah.
But they don't fail dramatically, usually.
I mean,
they just stop.
I mean, I've had graphics card failures as well, but they're not.
Yes, also.
But that's normally driver related and something software-y that can be fixed.
Well, I've had actual graphics card failures.
Well, aside from the NVIDIA 8800? That thing was a dodgy piece of crap. I had a that was when was it DX10 became a big thing, and the card I think came out earlier than it should have, because neither the driver set nor Windows nor the card itself, it seems, was ready. And that was painful. I should not have bought. It was one of those things. I just got out of uni and I just got into work, and I'm like, I'm going to blow my money on this top spec graphics card. Bit of a mistake. In retrospect, I probably should have waited a bit. I mean, I suppose that's true of any early adopter technology, but that one was especially true. That card was a pain in the ass. And now I'm milking this 1080 for all it's worth, because no one can afford graphics cards.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you got that at a good time, I feel like, before the craziness began of the crypto.
I mean, it was still expensive because it was a 1080.
Oh, yeah.
It
was a top. Well, that's the time to get the top range, when you can still get them for a recommended retail price, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
And then that's going to last you. Yeah.
Yeah, I am surprised how long this card has lasted, actually, because it's not the weak point in my machine. I would like to have like the new stuff, like, so I can toy with DLSS and get more frames and cards that are just a little bit better at dealing with like G-Sync or VRR, I suppose, is the catch-all term now. Than this card. This card is capable, but it's not perfect. Not anymore. It's
first generation kind of variable refresh rate technology. Yeah.
So
maybe
I've spoken before.
Good timing, because maybe cards will start to get reasonable around the same time.
Comparatively reasonable for sure.
I've spoken before that if I need to do this machine, like the rest of it needs to go first. Like I'm good for hard drives, but just like loading it with the CPU's aging a bit now, which is a bit of a problem for video stuff, and some of my music stuff now taxes it on occasion.
Your problem's always been the music stuff, just getting that to function. That's not necessarily a function of the PC, really, as much as the operating system, I guess.
Well, yeah, and that's part of the reason I don't ever update my Windows. Well, I update Windows, but I'm not going to replace that drive. I'm not going to replace that OS because it's the very OS we're recording on right now. That install, because there's just too much on it. That would hurt. That would really hurt. That's probably a week's worth of work just installing shit.
That's definitely a very specific problem.
Yeah, it is. Music production's horrendous.
Yeah. It's all plugins.
Yeah. And like I actually came across a scenario which hasn't happened. Well, it does happen occasionally, but I wasn't expecting it to happen this early. Well, I loaded up an old project because I had to make some tweaks for. It's not that old a project, I suppose, because there was an OC remix thing that I've been involved with. That like it's like, oh, could you make some tweaks in this way? And it's like, yeah, sure, fine, I'll go do that. But this is something I made I think 2 years ago now, and that project kind of stalled anyway. I reloaded that project, and it's like, oh, this doesn't sound right. What has happened? Plugins, I guess. Plugins and software updates are like, something has gone wrong. So I end up having to rework a decent amount of how the effects chains work on some tracks. Like the snares all sounded horrid. Certain instruments didn't play anymore. And it's like, what is happening? Yeah, music production, it's a nightmare. Like it's flash in the pan. It will happen once, and then you better damn capture it.
Like they need mod managers like games do.
Yeah, I guess they do.
Except not the other version of mods. Let's go old school, Rob.
I mean, I've heard plenty of producers just be always be recording. Like whatever you're doing, just have something recording what you're doing.
Oh yeah, I mean, constantly export a different version.
Yeah,
just in case you prefer it and you want to go back.
Yeah, just even when you're just. Supposedly when you're just dicking around with a synth, I normally try to capture a specific sound, right? I've got this idea in my head and I'm trying to nail it down.
All right, in case you change a setting by a tiny percentage and between two different versions, it sounds completely different.
And you break it.
Board.
Yeah, and you break it. But not only that, every now and then you get the happy accident thing, right? Where you fuck up a setting so badly that it creates this bizarre, awesome noise, and it's like, damn, I'm never going to be able to recreate that. I wish I had a sound recorder running. I still don't do that. I still don't follow my own advice because it's then a pain in the ass to go back through the recording. But says the person recording this podcast.
Yeah, recording this podcast.
To do as I say, not as I do.
It's only sometimes a pain in the ass to deal with our podcast / video recording output.
Yes, I've intentionally tried to keep this process as simple as possible. Still not the easiest, I suppose. It's not the simplest way it could possibly be. I could just upload it live or whatever. Or,
yes, you can record it on TeamSpeak like we used to at one point.
Or somehow try and figure out some live effects chain, right? So it's all mixed into a final file just as we record. I guess I could figure that out. There's probably ways to do that. There's definitely ways to do that. But no, I prefer...
that's risky.
Exactly. Yeah, if something goes...
to edit the individual parts.
Exactly. If something goes wrong, I want to be able to, I'll do it in post.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, news, I guess.
I got around
News. What's going on in video games?
Video game. Oh, and you also made me think.
We were talking about video cards. There does seem to be some craziness around new video cards with NVIDIA unlaunching their product.
Yeah, that is the term they used as well. We're unlaunching the 12 gig 4080. They're still going to sell the 16 gig 4080, and the 4090 is still coming. But yeah, the cheapest one of their new offerings is not going to launch, which has...
But are they going to do a 4070 then?
I mean, history suggests they will.
Yeah.
And it's weird because the 12 gig 4080, which theoretically has the exact same gubbins as the 16 gig 4080, other than obviously less GDDR.
VRAM, yeah.
Was actually clocking in at quite a lot slower somehow than the 16 gig. So maybe they'll just rebrand that as the 70 anyway, but do it at a slightly later date. initial reports were like surprising, I guess, in terms of the performance difference. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe that model just had a straight up error after it got analysed by people, and they're like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't.
Maybe. So you think they might unlaunch it as the 4070?
Yeah, they might relaunch. I mean, NVIDIA probably follow the same process that a lot of people do with like processors and chips in general, right? Where it's about yield. Like the best chips that come out of the factory, right? The best chips that come out of the factory go in the more expensive gear, and the chips that have yield problems, like not every part of a chip works, right? They don't come out perfect. That's like there are sectors and things like that are just a bit busted, and they turn bits off to cover those up. And as long as, depending on where that threshold is, that chip can then be graded and then sold as a different model to keep the manufacturing process as like one single thing.
So weird, isn't it?
It is weird, but
that's just the way it works.
But and I wonder if the 12 gig 4080 was effectively that. They were lower yield chips that then perhaps were quite a lot lower yield than I think they expected, and maybe they'll just repackage those into a 4070.
Meanwhile, they're launching the 4090, right? Which is getting reviewed.
The lunchbox.
It's so massive. I can't believe how expensive it is as well. It's actually cheaper than the 3090 Ti, though, I suppose, but a lot more. Right, that's like $2,000. This is like faster, and it's only £1,700.
Yeah, but it's more the. Now I saw the pictures of that, how big that thing is, how heavy that thing is, and the power draw of that thing. It's just like, I can understand the worries that PC makers might have of like, how do I put this safely into a case? Like, surely case manufacturers are going to have to come up with some more struts and more designs, and maybe motherboard manufacturers are going to have to come up with allow for way more space for these cards, with like space their PCI slots out even more somehow. Although in fairness, who uses more than like one, maybe two PCI slots? Like,
well, I mean, the trouble that even I had all the time when I've been YPC, it's only like a 670 or whatever. It still obstructs the second PCI port directly below it. Like, I have to have a gap between that and my network card.
Oh right, yeah, because you're running a network card. Yeah, I suppose because my motherboard doesn't have wireless on it as well. I've got a little dongle I can plug into the back if I want that jazz.
But yeah, even back then, the graphics cards were getting thick enough that they would obstruct certain other cards if they had, taller chips on or whatever. Or like the network cards where they have the actual aerial interface sticks up off the board.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's always been a problem. But now then you had the second tier of that problem where they were just have two graphics cards so they can take up even more space. And now we just have one graphics card, but it might as well be two graphics cards.
They still do. I mean, SLI is still a thing.
Yeah.
It's still doable. Yes, for
absolute madness.
I guess for systems that power like 3 or 4 monitors in some crazy setup.
For the kind of surround sound racing game stuff, and
or maybe you just need them to power like the giant monitors, like with crazy high wide resolutions. Don't get me wrong, 4K is still tough for a lot of systems, but like proper 4K with all the quality turned on, which is I guess is what these cards are designed to try and tackle.
For good luck with Cyberpunk at that kind of.
Yeah. Although DLSS 3 is like around the corner or is launched or something like that. Digital Foundry have a thing on that. That's, they're supposed to compete with AMD FSR 2. So like DLSS was the first, but FSR has caught up quite a bit. And so DLSS 3 is supposed to be even better. Temporal reconstruction stuff. Which is hella impressive, but it's not the same as running native, man. Come on. Push those pixels.
Push them real good. That's graphics card news.
Graphics card news.
What about gaming news?
Gaming news. All right. Well, we should probably talk about the Super Mario movie.
Sort of gaming, sort of movies.
I guess
that would have been the transition from our random section if we talked about any other movies, but this one will do.
Meme news.
I mean, the first thing I saw before I saw the trailer was people complaining about his flat butt.
Yeah, that was the first thing I saw.
Mario has no ass.
I mean,
when he jumps so much, it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, his design is it's weird, isn't it? Because like, I don't have a problem with any of what I've saw. I'm going to put that out there. It's like I actually think this is probably going to be quite a fun film. But
yeah, but
if Mario's design is like. They've definitely unfattened him, but they've also somehow normalized him in a sort of animation way. Like he doesn't look quite as Nintendo-y as I was.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was looking at it and trying to work out what it was, and I think it's the eyes are like
the eyes are weird.
The eyes have been squashed down to make them less, because Mario's eyes normally are basically vertical ovals, and in this version they've been squashed down. But still not into like human proportions where they're actually wider than they are tall. They're like sort of trapezoid almost. They're like they still go up, but they're like more squashed down.
Like I for some reason in my head, they make it look like the guy from SpongeBob, right? The crab guy,
right? Yeah,
like crab guy, Krusty Krab's eyes or whatever, just slapped onto Mario's face, like something. Just they're not perfectly like round or elliptical or whatever. They're sort of like thinner at one end and fatter at the other end. I sort of get that vibe somehow from them. But like, so it's like they're somehow managing to make things look Nintendo enough, but also like normalizing it towards Illumination and I guess Pixar-y style. I get a Wreck-It Ralph vibe of from the look, even though that's like, Pixar and not like sorry, that's not even Pixar. That's Disney animation and.
Because that's what I said when the other comparison that I had on Mario's face was he looks exactly like the NPC dudes from Wreck-It Ralph, from the Wreck-It Ralph game universe. Those little dudes. That's basically one of their faces, just on Mario.
Yeah, it's similar to Felix. I think we talked about. Yeah. But it is strange. It's just that one shot they show where it's like about the arse thing, right? Where it's just like why it's from the arse thing. Yeah, why is Gene saggy? Like. Mario's supposed to be rotund and fill those boys.
Well, the real question that we're apparently maybe going to be coming up to is why is he wearing that shit in the first place? Because it's looking like this might be some goddamn origin story, which is totally going to be really like we're going to recanonize the stupid Mario origin story. Is he actually from Brooklyn? Are we going for this for real?
That doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah. I mean, he's totally from Brooklyn. They're going to stick to that. And
he's doing a slight Brooklyn.
Is he though?
No, it's not even Brooklyn. It's like a New Jersey Sopranos accent or something that he's slightly doing, isn't it? It's like Chris Pratt by way of Paulie Walnuts.
Here we come. I mean, I like that he sort of tried to put a little bit of intonation.
He's got something in there, yeah.
He's not just 100% Pratt.
No, it's just quite
far too much, maybe.
Yeah,
quite subtle.
But also, shout out to my Penguin brothers.
Well, what I said when we talked about it the first time is just like I wasn't feeling any of the voice acting from the actual like main cast except for the penguins.
The penguin guy is amazing. That whole "do you yield?" That's the best.
Is it just the penguins? Remind me of where they're the penguins from Mario 64, yes. Right? But do they appear anywhere else in the Mario verse?
No, we were wondering whether they turned up in Odyssey in the snow level.
And who's in Mario 64? It's just like the big one and the looking for the baby, right?
Yeah, and like the one you race on the slide, I guess.
And the one you race, right? Yeah,
they must have turned up in the Mario parties somewhere, right?
That was my other guess. There's got to have been an icy level but probably not anything more than background even. Maybe a store that you can talk to.
I mean, yeah. It's been ages since I played one of the new Super Mario games, so maybe they turned up in one of those.
I guess there have been ice levels in the newer Mario games that have had penguins in, but not like...
Or land or world.
But not like the penguin civilization or anything.
Yeah. No, there was never any of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that's new, right? I don't think
you
ever see
Kingdom of Penguin.
Like, is that not the Mushroom Kingdom? Is this the Ice Kingdom or something? Are we going that route? We're going to see
Who
the
are the guys
Kingdom?
in the icy kingdom in Mario Odyssey?
It's just called the Ice Kingdom, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's called
they have a race.
Shiveria, I think.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
But their race is like the fat seals.
Yeah, the seals.
Oh,
Right.
right.
Not the penguins.
I mean, maybe we'll see them too.
Maybe.
Like some other part of the of that area that then gets trounced by Bowser and his floating volcano.
Yeah, whatever that's about.
Well, because it's badass. That's all it's about. Hey, we didn't get to hear a lot of Jack Black, but like, I don't know. That sounded
He was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly fine.
It sounded too much fine, though. There wasn't much going on from my own perspective, I thought.
Who's gonna stop me? I mean, that line was a bit naff, but like,
Yes,
because it's like maybe it's not even in the full film. Like, I wonder if that's one of those lines,
trailer lines,
just in the trailer, yeah, just to lead into the Mario coming out of a pipe.
Probably, could well be. Nothing too worrying about it. I think animation looks nice.
I mean,
I quite like the meme of him like, holding his chest in pain or whatever.
I mean,
that's quite a good one.
I will say my biggest gripe with the whole thing, and this is a minor thing, is how Luigi looks. I don't think he looked kind of weird, like weirder than Mario weird, like just something like. I know he's supposed to have an elongated face or whatever, but it's just.
Well, is it just like because they've squashed the eyes, it makes the elongated face look even weirder because the eyes aren't taking up enough space any longer?
Or maybe the eyes were elongated with it. I can't put my finger on what's wrong with it, but it just didn't, like when he puts his back against that door and he's being chased by dry bones or whatever. It's just you can keep that in the dark, Luigi.
We haven't seen Peach yet either.
We haven't seen Peach.
Played by Anya Taylor-Joy, right? I seem to remember.
It'd be funny if they modelled like Daisy on the live action
playing Daisy?
One. I don't know. I'm not even convinced Daisy's even in it.
No, I don't think they ever mentioned that.
It's Daisy, and there isn't in the Super Mario Brothers film. Isn't
Well,
it?
yeah, that was the thing about it.
Yeah, it was Daisy and not Peach.
It wasn't Peach. Yeah.
I'm Daisy. I hope if Daisy's in it, I hope that's her only line.
Not gonna happen.
Come on. Hi, I'm Daisy.
They're not gonna make that reference because that's not even a reference that Nintendo acknowledges ever. Because it wasn't a reference to anything in the first place.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, exactly. Where did that come from?
That must have been Double Dash, right?
Yes, it was.
Like
Every time you switched between the front and back seat in Double Dash.
She would jump in and go, hi, I'm Daisy.
Was Double Dash straight Nintendo, or was that one of the other sub-developers?
No, I think that one is straight Nintendo. Because I know Namco help out a lot with the last few Mario Karts. Like, Namco are like a co-developer on Mario Kart 8.
Right.
And the arcade machines, obviously. Yes. Namco actually had their fingers in Splatoon. In that in this one as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were in the credits. Spoilers for what I'll talk about later.
That was it though. They just got a credit.
They got credits. Yeah.
We talked to Namco at some point during the development process, so they have to have a credit.
Secret Pac-Man cameo. I don't know. Black Man. Yeah, all right. That's Mario Bros. Also, just like they're calling it the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I guess we probably already knew that, but I'm still a little disappointed that's what they landed on. I mean, maximum brand awareness, I guess, but.
Well, and if it does turn out to be origin story, I guess that's what makes it more appropriate.
Yeah. I just don't like anything with like movie in the title, I think. Like, we're a film, so we're calling it the film. It's almost like when video games are called like
the game of the movie or whatever.
Yeah. something the video game. I suppose Scott Pilgrim did that. Scott Pilgrim versus
that
the
was
world,
ironical.
the video game. Yeah,
that was intentionally that way on purpose.
Or Street Fighter the movie, the game.
Yeah, that's the classically bad example.
I don't even know if it's actually fully called that, but that's just in my own headcanon. That's what it's called. Alrighty. Meta have announced new headsets. Well, a new headset.
Theoretically two, but the other one didn't exist.
Yeah, Quest 3 is apparently coming, but they didn't talk about it at their Connect event. But we did get to see Quest Pro. That's an expensive headset.
How much is it? Don't they need to lost lead these things because no one actually wants to go to the metaverse?
They've given up on that plan, apparently.
Yeah, that doesn't appear to be their approach from now. The Quest Pro will be about £1,500.
Right.
That is a lot of money. That's putting it into like above Valve Index money. But maybe that makes more sense if the device self-powers, I guess, and runs stuff on the device, which the Index can't.
Yeah. So it's fully untethered, right?
Yeah.
All the processing on there.
Yeah, and it'll be more powerful, and it's got a lot more resolution, and its tracking will be better. Yada yada, everything you'd expect. And they're mounting the battery pack in a way that onto the strap, so it's balanced, and everything you'd expect. Like all good things. In a weird way, that's not why I'm talking about it. The whole thing about the Meta thing was that they demonstrated that they now have leg tracking as part of this thing, so it can see your legs and then would put those into whatever Meta is. So you're not a floating torso anymore. You've got legs. Turns out that was bollocks, and they had that was just a target. That they showed. It's like that some of the demonstration was prepared by mocap, and it's like, okay, great. So, don't do that. Just don't do that.
Yeah, don't totally cheat it or fake it.
At least Microsoft
mocapping ahead of times.
At least 15 years ago, Microsoft showed off Kinect by being like, hey, here's the bottom of your foot, and it glitched out quite a lot.
Yeah, but that was like everything at E3 just glitched out constantly.
Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily anything to do with the technology. It was just the atmosphere of E3.
Other than that Milo demo, which was just a video.
Well, that's true.
100% fake. 100%. Molyneux.
I mean, that was pretty much the end of Molyneux at that point.
Not quite.
I mean, he lasted a little bit longer than that.
A little bit longer,
yeah. A cube and whatnot.
You were chipping away at that cube.
yeah. I suppose you could argue that and was it Godicus? What was it the follow-up thing that was
the populist thing,
a disaster.
That was the end.
That was the end
of Molyneux. What is he actually doing?
I don't know.
Nothing.
I think I looked it up not that long ago, but he's about somewhere. That's the worrying thing. He's like, I think he's still in the industry, but like
the gaming ether.
Yeah, but what he's doing, I don't.
He's giving the occasional talk at the game dev conference, whatever it's called.
Yeah. I spoke to a developer a few months back, about used to work for Molyneux. There was some interesting tales.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was a thing. Like I guess fine, leg tracking with inside out tracking on these headsets. I couldn't believe. I guess if you're a slim build and it can see from the headset to your feet. It's like, yeah, I can see that potentially. Maybe it can do some work from the controllers, but those controllers look a little bit different as well now because they don't have the halo on them. They look more nunchucky than I guess they have been in the past.
I don't really know why you need leg tracking at all. Like, surely you just inverse kinematics and that will be fine.
Yeah,
it's still already tracking essentially where your body is via the head and hands combo.
I guess
so
maybe
just extrapolate it downwards.
Yeah, I guess you could animate it. I suppose it's different, from not your actual mannerism is figuring it out.
It wouldn't work for you to see it, right? If it was just simulating it based on your position.
No, that would.
And you were trying to walk. It would probably confuse you if you looked down.
That might be quite weird. Yeah. But then, like, I can sort of see why they want it. They want to recapture some of what Kinect was doing. Honestly, like that's why they're doing it. They're like, okay, yeah, they're focusing on the social aspect, but it's like people just want to kick stuff.
Obviously. Just wait until we get actual. I mean, they obviously need to do what Nintendo did and give you a leg strap, and then you wedge a controller in there,
yeah.
and then it can really cinch your leg, and then you can kick things.
Yeah, and then you kick things. I saw these things. I can't remember where I saw these, but like these shoes that you can get that are a little bit like Heelys, and that you can. They sound super dangerous to me, but like you're wearing shoes with wheels on, and it's something about like you move your feet, and that translates to locomotion in the game in a more real feeling way.
It's just like an inverted version of the like Omni treadmill or whatever.
Kinda, yeah.
Except it's attached to the shoes rather than being a thing you stand on.
Except I guess I have to be a little careful because you're effectively wearing roller skates at that point, and it's like roller skates in VR. Oh boy.
I mean, it would work great for like a skateboarding game if you just wore one of them.
So you could
actually push along the floor and have that translate directly to the momentum.
Yeah, that could be pretty bad. Except markets have already proved they don't want that.
Nope. No one wants real skateboarding.
No one wants Tony Hawk's skate. Which, as it turns out, might now, like branding combined, might actually be exactly what everyone wants. Yeah. Anyway, that was VR news. There's a few other headsets about, as it turns out. Like Pico launched something that's like a Quest like thing that is apparently okay. I saw some stuff on that, and it's like, hey, that interface looks a lot like the Quest interface. It's like 100% a rip-off, but like actually the headset's pretty capable.
What's the state of the idea of like rendering at high resolution where you're looking with the eye tracking? Is that in any of the
Quest Pro will support that.
Right, okay.
PSVR 2 apparently supports that.
Does that? Okay.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Because that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Because, like, although in fairness, like my problem, like with VR, or at least the Quest 2, I guess this may be because the way I have to wear it, because I'm wearing glasses inside the thing as well, is that if I anywhere other than directly ahead of me starts to lose crispness in the way those lenses work. Yeah. So it's like if I'm trying to look at a bit of HUD, say off to the side, and I move my eyes to do it rather than move my head, that's not always great.
Mm.
And I think that's just because I'm spaced from the lenses a bit, and I'm wearing glasses, and I'm not at the ideal position inside that thing. I'm just not.
No.
So maybe that's on me, but it's like, I don't know, a bit of me's like, well, it doesn't really matter, like whether this ocular tracking thing doesn't really bother me, because it's just like, well, I'll just move my eyes somewhere and it'll be a blurry mess regardless, like through lensing, not through what's being rendered. But I can see that it would be potentially a good way to save power, rendering power.
Mm.
Get it super crisp where you're actually looking, and then degrade.
Assuming that like the extra processing you have to do to cause that to happen doesn't cancel it out.
Yeah, I mean, I bet there must be ways of doing it. Like, it must be like how dynamic resolution scaling just affects the whole screen.
Yeah.
You effectively just have to isolate certain parts and be like, no, actually here do resolution. And you probably don't have to do that in a super granular way. You can probably do that in like chunks of squares of the screen, a little bit like how what do they call it? Like the light arrays that LCD screens use at the back of them now. Local illumination, I think it's called.
Oh yeah,
like what my TV's got. Where it's a grid of lighting zones.
With the local dimming or whatever.
Yeah. It's not a perfect solution. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely times where it's a bit wonky, but I think you could get away with it in this case. Hell, most of the time you're not going to notice. Like, that's the thing. It's just like that's the point. You're not supposed to notice. Like,
wow, I mean, that would only be true if we were at the point where resolutions were actually high enough.
Actually good enough, yeah. They're not high enough for with a Quest 2, for instance. Like, I don't think the resolution that thing's kicking out is high enough for this tech. But then again, the actual resolution it is processing is quite high, right? Like, it has to be high, but it's like we're still not at the point where it's high enough, which is weird. Got to be way higher than your monitors. Anywho, VR. Moving on. I haven't got a huge amount of news else, like in actual game land.
No.
Like, Dwarf Fortress is getting a tutorial. That's
the
kind
Steam version.
The Steam version, yeah. That Steam version's looking... I was sort of mildly surprised, actually, when I looked at that thing, being like, there is more to this than I was expecting. Like, not more to it because it's Dwarf Fortress, because I know there's freaking ridiculous quantity of stuff because it's Dwarf Fortress.
Yep.
But they're putting more work into that UI than I was expecting.
Well, I mean, the fact that they had to make an actual mouse-driven UI to start with was going to do a lot of effort.
Absolutely. Good on them, I say.
Well, assuming that it succeeds.
Well, yeah.
It does sound like for all these years they've been working on it, it's been quite a struggle. And there's been some drama in the team as well, but that's not really related to the progress of the project. But...
Well, I assume it's not a big team, right?
No.
Like, is it still just the...
No, it's
it must be more than
them.
Oh, someone else is doing it, is it?
Someone else is doing it.
It's more than the original two guys.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure they keep a pretty close eye on the project, but it's not them doing the main of the work, I don't think.
Well, that's fine, because they probably have to help them with how the core engine works underneath.
Yes,
and then
that's probably the main problem.
So the hooks for the UI can exist.
Yeah.
Can be made to exist. No, Dwarf Fortress. Maybe we'll actually attempt... Maybe when the Steam version comes out, we should have another go at making a video that works.
Yes. Hopefully that would be much easier.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think we should. Although, would you need time to get used to the Steam version to be able to show it off?
Well, ideally not, because it should be exactly the same underneath, but like...
Right.
Mechanics-wise, yeah, but I guess you won't be able to use your shortcuts.
Well, maybe. I don't know what they're going to do about that, because in theory, like, it should all be additive, right? Like, it still all functions the same underneath, so...
Yeah, but that just might be the logic engine, like everything on top might I think would have room to be jiggled around with. And in fairness, it probably should be. Like, I think that accessibility should be their concern.
I get the feeling that like the market for this is like you don't want to alienate people who like the old version, or not necessarily like, but have learned the old version from playing the new version. You want all their skills to transfer, their skills being navigating the goddamn nightmare of the menus. So you probably still want all those things to work, but just to have this other option that works better.
It's just like a Java to Windows Store Minecraft thing again.
Yeah, maybe. Also, I guess sort of news that it's like, it's time for the Minecraft mob vote again, which I always find funny because, you know, how about finishing all these other? How about finishing last year's ones? I still don't think the goats are actually in.
Right, yeah.
In the real version of the game. I think they might be one of the current, like, experimental or whatever they call it. I forget. Snapshots. But, like, as usual, it's like, here's what we're going to be doing for the next whole year, I guess, because that appears to be how long it takes for them to actually get around to finishing them.
Yeah, just managing Minecraft must be a nightmare. They're on so many platforms now.
Well, yes. The update cycle must be a pain.
But then, again, same breath. Like the argument you have to use when you talk about anything like that. But Fortnite, though.
Well, and also, you know, it's not an indie company any longer, and it hasn't been for years, even before Microsoft bought them. And yet there still only ever seems to be like 3 people working on it from the videos that they show.
There must be more than that. People that are there splintering off onto other projects a little too soon.
Well, I mean, you know, they had Minecraft Dungeons, and now they've got Legends, that other new one.
Oh, right, yeah, that thing.
Whatever the fuck that actually is.
You know, Minecraft Dungeons got an arcade machine.
That's a slightly weird, but I could easily have seen a Diablo arcade machine.
Yeah, could work. Depends, like how the credit system will. Like, if you die, that's the end of your credit. But but then
pay for potions.
Yeah. I wonder. Weird to think about now, isn't it? Like arcade machines off console games. It's weird.
Arcade machines at all.
Arcade machines is weird. Yeah, it is a shame.
And I guess not actually video game news, but I just wanted to not actually talk about it, but mention the continuing ridiculous situation of Twitter and Elon.
Oh yeah.
That goddamn thing is still happening.
It's back on, is it?
Well,
I mean, everything's ridiculous at the moment.
Yes.
I mean, literally everything has gone insane.
But this whole deal has just been, I've been like vaguely keeping up with, all the lawsuits that have been happening over these last, 8 months or whatever it's been at this point.
Yeah.
But the most recent point has been particularly ridiculous because it was like, Twitter were suing him to complete the deal, basically.
On the terms that he agreed to.
You can't pull out of this agreement, you just have to do it. And that seemed like it was going to happen. That was like, they were going to force him to buy Twitter.
Yeah, you've already agreed to this. There's no backing out. You're contractually obliged or something.
But then he was like, but I can prove that you're actually in breach of the contract and therefore I can get out of this contract. And that was going to be a thing. But then like the most recent round is basically now Elon Musk is like, okay, I'm going to buy you, so we can totally drop all these lawsuits now. And then Twitter are like, maybe we don't drop the lawsuits and we just make you buy it through the lawsuits just to be sure.
Right.
Which is like, that's a ridiculous legal position to end up in, where it's like, he's saying that he wants to buy them now, but they're saying that they don't trust that he does actually want to buy them, so they still want to sue him to force them to buy them.
And in fairness to Twitter, why would they?
No, exactly.
Like, unless he signs even more stuff to say, yes, this is happening, therefore drop the lawsuits.
Yeah.
I cannot see how
that lawsuit did kind of, he was trying to say essentially that, like, that lawsuit, the outcome he wanted was basically a sort of less strict version of being forced to buy it. It was like, it was going to be legally binding that the deal was going to happen, but it wasn't going to be this, like, super other, like, the original lawsuit way.
He didn't want the original agreement, effectively.
But, like, yeah, because at this point, the sort of theory is that, like, the way he agreed that he does now want to buy the company, there's some sort of suspicion going around that, like, but he's going to fail to get the financing for it, and that will give him an out. Because that's not him doing anything. It's just these other people that coincidentally are, friends with him and giving him billions of money or whatever. That's why Twitter doesn't want to let this lawsuit go, because there's still like this weird back passage that he could use to escape the deal.
Yeah. But isn't his own funds, his own personal funds, enough to just deal with this?
Not really. Well, I mean, maybe, but he doesn't want to spend all his money, I guess.
No.
He wants to spend other people's money as well. So who knows how that's going to turn out. We're just continuing to, like, be stuck in this weird legal situation. But, I mean, technically this isn't taking an unnecessarily long time yet. Like, the Microsoft Activision deal still hasn't gone through, so
no, I mean,
we're on, like, equal terms of that.
I normally put people like Elon into a rich asshole bucket in my mind, but, like, normally they are business savvy in some way. And I'm starting to get and in fairness to Elon, he kind of has been in the past, right? Like,
on some levels,
yeah.
I mean, this brings all that into question, right? Like,
I think, like, it's almost like his problem is the same problem of Valve and releasing the third game of a series. It's like he doesn't finish things. He starts a lot of things, but then he can't commit. And except in this case, it's like that's happened too quickly, and he hasn't even finished the deal part of buying Twitter before giving up on it.
Yeah, except Tesla. I will give him all the credit in the world for what Tesla has become.
That wasn't really him, though.
Yeah, I mean, he bought it. But you could argue that without him, it wouldn't have become what it is.
Maybe,
or without his money.
Well, yes, but.
And arguably,
and SpaceX are launching a lot of rockets. I mean, they have made it
successful.
It's very impressive that they managed to make landing a booster stage like a regular, normal thing, like on its end.
Has that really become normal though? I still feel like they do it a lot, but is it like really that useful yet, or is it still just like to just prove that it works?
No, I think it is. I think they refurbish them and send them up again quite a few times now at this point. I think that is quite a lot cheaper. Like, it's actually manifesting in cheaper launches.
And it's less material and less space.
It's mainly that, It's mainly, it does save money to not have to. And they reuse their engines, right? They refurbish and reuse their engines. So it's not just the body of the rocket, it's the actual rocket motor doesn't get lost. Anyway, ta-ta.
This feels like he was some kind of
drama.
Yeah,
like he was on some amount of heavy drinking. Like there's not.
I mean, I get a sense that he definitely went a little off the rails when he broke up with Grimes or whatever.
I mean, I don't get why you would buy Twitter. I just don't like. Has that company ever been profitable in any way? Like, other than making like fake market share or like fake value, like does it actually make real money? I don't.
Certainly not as much as Facebook, but then it also seems to have more future than Facebook somehow. Like less likely to be just disrupted by like the TikToks of the world. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But it is a cesspool, though. They all are.
They all are. I mean, I do still look at my Facebook, and it has descended into, I would say, about 75% ad to friend content ratio.
Yeah,
it's insane now. That's not why I use that platform. I'd like
Twitter. I actually go on, and if you follow the right people, it's good. Obviously,
sure. Yeah. There's some fun stuff.
Yeah.
I like the Good Faces bot. That's entertaining. Just post a random
Good Faces.
Good Faces bot. Like, it just posts a random stupid face every now and then, like from video games or TV or something. It's just like, it's a stupid face.
Here's a stupid face. Nice.
As we know, Rob is all about face.
I mean, ideally, I should have more butts on my Twitter. I mean, I'm sure that's easily.
I'm not sure that's what you want.
I'm sure that's easily achieved.
I'm sure there's plenty of butt Twitter available.
Yeah. Oh, man. Although Gnome will unfollow things for me if she gets hold of my phone.
Really?
So, yeah, she's done that in the past.
What?
So the bots wouldn't last long, is what we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the Twitter drama news, I guess.
Yep.
Nothing else crazy happening in the world except everything, but let's concentrate on video games.
I mean, a firmware update to Smart Things caused my little buttons that we have on our bedside tables to stop working. So that's annoying.
Everything in your house is
gradually falling apart. That's the nature of these smart home things. Yeah. I think thing will eventually, whatever service you're relying on will eventually
die. Yeah. I mean, in fairness, I feel like the buttons was a mistake. I think that was just an error. I just haven't been asked to try the fix, which is to take them off your system and put them back on your system. Supposedly. But what made me laugh about that was like apparently this firmware update rolled out on a Friday, and like the software developer in me is going, "Oh, rookie mistake!
Always deploy on Thursday, at least
rookie mistake." Oh well, I'm sure I'll solve that. I'll come up with something anyway. We were talking about I don't know if I've spoken about any of this on the podcast before, but baby protecting like important cupboards, and it's like I can stick a sensor on it and make it go. Like,
I think it's probably easier just to put like some kind of log on it.
Yeah, absolutely, obviously,
Yes.
obviously we'll do that.
Just put a rubber band around the handle. That'll be enough.
Because no one was all like, it's just the cupboard under the sink, and I'm like, we've got other cupboards. We could just move everything that's under the sink into a utility room or whatever.
Into a more accessible cupboard. Into a cupboard in another room where the baby might be.
A high up cupboard, like out of baby arm reach. It's like the aerial ad, like put it high up with a click clack or whatever. But I quite like the idea of just putting sensors on random doors and having them just going.
So you don't even want it to alert you. You just want it to be like a scarecrow. It just scares the baby away.
Sure, it'd be better if the sound came from the actual thing rather than from some random Alexa somewhere else.
Start taping a sensor and a mini speaker on every door.
But then it doesn't need to be any kind.
Put a massive Bluetooth speaker in there and just have it go.
It doesn't need to be smart at all. It doesn't need to be networked. It's just a thing that makes a noise.
Magnetic latch.
Hey, I didn't say it was a smart sensor.
Okay.
Just put something in there and make it go. Anyway, that amused me. Smart things, house grouse. Let's get that in there.
Yeah. What video game grouse we got? We've got the Bayonetta grousing.
Oh, yeah.
I suppose we could talk about that. Yeah. So the original voice actress, whose name I lost off my screen. That's not very good. Is asking to boycott. For people to boycott Bayonetta 3 due to how little she was offered to be paid for her work.
And also she's not in it.
Yeah, and as a result decided not to do it. And they recast Bayonetta as, admittedly, decent actress Jennifer Hale, who's done a whole bunch of stuff. Probably most notable for FemShep, I guess.
Yeah.
Or at least with us.
For me, anyway, yeah. One of the few video game voice actors' names who I know off the top of my head.
Exactly,
Troy Baker and
Helena Taylor was Bayonetta in 1 and 2. Yeah, so apparently she was only offered like $4,000 in dollars, US dollars, to reprise the role of Bayonetta. That sounds mental. It's like, that is not a lot of cash.
No.
And I don't know. Like, depends how much work they get, I suppose, and how often they do these types of jobs. In which case, if it only takes like a month to record every line for Bayonetta, $4,000 is probably not bad if you're doing it every month. But it's still like, yeah, I think it's that field immediately kind of like, oh, that's it. That doesn't seem high. That doesn't seem like a lot. Not for this industry. Not for like acting, I suppose, and having such a pivotal role in such a big game. So yeah, she's boycotting. She wants you to not buy Bayonetta 3. I hate to say it, but I think I might have a problem with that. Like, I don't think I can.
Yeah,
it's like I agree with her. That doesn't seem right. Yeah. Like, that really doesn't seem right. But also Bayonetta 3.
Bayonetta 3. Yeah, that's what they're counting on.
And also,
yeah.
Hey, I mean, Jennifer Hale's pretty good too. So, now I'm intrigued.
It's a weird one.
Now I'm intrigued.
It's definitely Goss though. It's Goss.
Yeah. It's
grouse for sure. She was grousing.
It is grouse. There is Bayonetta beef. Bayer beef. Beef from the bay.
And is that the news just about?
Yeah, that I think is interesting. That PlayStation Stars thing launched, I think, but like I haven't looked at how that actually works.
What is that?
Their sort of loyalty program thing that they're putting onto PlayStation. I don't know. Like, buy stuff, get points, I guess, but also be good to the community, get points. I don't know. Get digital collectibles for like a fake shelf or something. Whatever. guess they wanted something to compete with Microsoft Rewards, which is equally nebulous and weird, but
somehow Nintendo actually has the best version of this thing already.
Do they? What, the platinum points, or do you mean the gold points, where it's just like
both of them?
Oh, both of them.
I guess.
Like, buy stuff, get points. Like if you buy something again, just spend them to reduce the cost.
Yeah, and then the platinum points giving you random
as long as you buy from Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever got any of the points needed for like the stupid stuff that unlocks, like, I don't know, like pictures, whatever. Isn't that the thing where like the more of these like diamond points or whatever they're called, like you can unlock like player pictures, gamer pics essentially, or the ability to customize gamer pics with like custom backgrounds, and sounds more like a ill thought out achievement system more than a loyalty system.
Well, sure, I guess achievements are kind of a loyalty system in some ways.
Yeah, well, no, they're more of a hook than a reward. Baduk. Everyone's after that adrenaline, though. Baduk.
Not adrenaline, but okay.
Endorphins?
Yes, that's
probably the endorphin rush from unlocking
you're
achievements.
Getting adrenaline from hearing the achievement pop. That's probably a bit much.
I suppose it's the adrenaline leading up to you getting a certain achievement.
Hey, don't kink shame. Anyway, right. I think it's time for what you've been playing. I think we better start with Rob.
Me? Third Earl of Creting?
The third Earl of Creting?
With my reputation? I wouldn't if I were you. Let's talk about Splatoon, I guess. Let's start with the obvious one.
Splat 'em up.
Splat 'em up. I'm still playing bucket loads of that. I suppose literal bucket loads, because I've been trying to play with the bucket a bit more. I'm still mostly doing Salmon Run more than anything else, actually. Like, despite Salmon Run being a bit hamstrung in this version compared to where Splatoon 2 ended up, like, it's
Is it not quite where it was because it's missing?
Yeah, I mean, it's missing. There's not enough levels, basically. That's been Splatoon's. That's been Salmon Run's problem. Like, there's just not enough levels.
Always, yeah.
Needs more maps. Just a little more variety, and like, even though they added a little, like literally a little more variety this time round, it's like it's still. It is somehow not enough yet. The fact that it's 24/7 now means that it is enough for me to always. That's always the first thing I do. Like, I fire it up and I play enough rounds of Salmon Run to get like a super bonus, or maybe fight the King Salmonid once, and then I'm out. And like, so that can still take like an hour to do. So I'm still doing that more than anything else, rather than actually playing multiplayer, which is not what happened to me in Splatoon 2. Honestly, I played a lot more multiplayer than I did Salmon Run in there, and Zach and I like would grind out Salmon Run in local.
Well, sometimes, yes.
Yeah. But I guess the thing I kind of want to talk about today is I finished the story. I got around to actually finishing this story in the campaign mode. And how I kind of feel about that. And I think that the campaign mode might actually be the weakest one they've done yet.
Oh,
I think in retrospect, when I'm thinking about it, like, because
I thought that was going to be the big selling point to some extent of Splatoon 3, at least from the original trailers.
I mean, kind of. Like, I mean, they got in the first game I'm giving a pass to because it was new.
Yeah,
and it was but it had kind of a progression in the first one where it's like, I don't know, they would introduce a new mechanic and then they would do things with that. Like, they felt like the problem Splatoon 3 has is that at the very first level I don't know if it's not the very first level, but it's the first level once you get into the campaign proper. They're just like, by the way, here's all the mechanics that Splatoon 1 and 2 have had in the past. Like, here's all of them. In one level. Like the start of the level literally has like Callie and Marie going, "Ooh, there's a lot going on here." And then what they actually then build on is kind of, they don't actually have. I don't feel like they have that many ideas. like to really add on it. They might have done everything that. It's not as inventive as Octo expansion was in Splatoon 2, for instance. Yeah. The thing that I think bums Zach out, the whole that you can't do every level with every weapon anymore. In some cases, is actually kind of restrictive. Like, so I don't think you can go into one of the. I'm trying to count them in my head. One of the 5 boss fights. Yeah, there's only 5. One of the 5 boss fights and do them in a different way because you go into the hero with the hero gear. And some of the boss fights you had to tackle a little different, or it's like kind of interesting to try and do in a different way with a different weapon.
Yeah.
In the previous games, and that's no longer a thing. I also think the boss fights are kind of weak this time round. They're not as interesting. The problem with the campaign is that like it front loads and back loads its most interesting stuff. So like it's fine to get started, and then you get a little bit of story, and then you get the setting, and then you land in the setting, and that stuff's all like quite well done. There's a few cutscenes here and there, and then at the end you get like a lengthy ass end sequence where you have to commit and do it in one. Basically, there's no like skip. There's no like you can't save halfway through this thing. You've got to go right. We're doing the end. And then that's lengthy, and then that's also where a lot of ideas seem to come out, and that's also where they seem to throw the budget at for like having some cutscenes and some flavor and some weirdness going on. And don't get me wrong, the lore part of it is actually kind of, I don't want to spoil it, but it is weird in like kind of the right way. Like it is out there. For anyone that really cares about the lore of Splatoon, but it's like it's even more bizarre than it has been in the past. But also, I think like I just don't think they do enough with campaign. Like I feel like they needed to have more ideas. They needed to perhaps bring in some more weirdness that Octo had, and add more. Just add more. Even if it was more like linear content, like story content as you were going through it. Like 'cause I think they do that stuff well. But because there's like only a batch at the start and then a batch at the end, I found myself getting quite bored of the campaign. Honestly, like going through it, it's not super long, but I still found myself getting a little bit bored of it. Being like, do I really have to do another one of these levels? Okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's not a good sign, is it?
No. It's a shame, and like the ending just isn't as. Speaking of Bayonetta, there's some stuff in it that felt a bit Bayonetta-y, or even a bit Silent Adventure-y. Like,
storytelling-wise,
in the weirdness of the finale and things. Like it is properly odd and bonkers, and like it's just like what is going on right now? Okay, this kind of stuff, and it's like that's fine.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
It's not quite as cool as what they did with Octo. Like it's not there, but it is still there. But as I say, it's just a shame it's all at the back. Like if they put more into this, I think they could have done something really, really great. And as a result, I just don't think it's as strong as it should be overall. And that's a bummer. It is a bummer. What I will say is, and this is technically a minor spoiler. There is an extra level that unlocks once you do the campaign. It is long, it is hard as balls, but it is one of the most satisfying things in the whole thing. It has one of the sections has a real flaw in it, like where it's like I don't know. The ink rails have a bit of an animation as they like appear and they start, and one of the segments has you destroying targets. Like there's a few missions like this where you have to destroy targets, and the next rail doesn't appear unless you've destroyed everything, and then you just fall off and die.
Right.
But in this particular one, it was possible to destroy all the targets, and then just because of the way the animation doesn't finish in time, and you can just fall to your death, so you feel a bit cheated out of it, or it involves a very, very large jump, and you could be like a millimeter off from it, and like just be like, well, that's not really my fault. I can't see it because I'm shooting at the goddamn targets as I'm falling down this. Anyway, right. That was a bit of a sour note in it, but otherwise, this last level is massive and has some of the hardest stuff in the game and is legitimately challenging, and as a result, is super satisfying to actually finish. More of that, please. Like, where was this across the rest of the game?
Right, throughout the guest of the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least that's there. I mean, that gives you a tantalizing hint. But it'd be nicer if that was something in, I don't know, Splatoon 1 or 2 that would then develop into something for Splatoon 3. But we're already at Splatoon 3 at this point.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just another example of Splatoon 3 in general. It's like
not actually enhancing the
it should have been
product.
more. Yeah, it should have been more. It's still, and it tears me apart because it's still great, and I still want to, just talking about it, I want to play it. It's one of those, like, just the mention of it, I'm like, I need to go splat some shit. But it's just, it's just, look, I guess I feel like with Splatoon 3, like, a slightly less extreme version of how Overwatch people think of Overwatch 2, right? Like, Anyway, that sums up how I feel about Splatoon at the moment. It's like I can't take myself away from it, but they could have done more. They really could have done more. So let's talk about some other stuff. I'm trying to think what's best to really tackle here. Metal Hellsinger. Let's talk about that. So that turned up on Game Pass a little while back, and that is, what if Doom needed to be played to a rhythm?
What, like a I don't know, like a cadence type game?
Kinda.
But
so
in first person.
Your movement isn't restricted, but your shooting is. So you have to shoot to the beat. And that is basically, that statement like sums it up. If you know what Doom 2016 is, and you know what, and you can pull a trigger in time with some seriously excellent metal music, then
oh, nice.
Then you're in for a treat. I love this thing. I think this is great. It's like I haven't played it.
Cool.
I haven't played a huge amount of it yet because it's quite intense.
So do you have to you have to actually time your shots to the beat rhythm game
shots.
style?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's actually two games pretty similar to this. BPM came out a while back now on Steam, I think, and it's basically the same idea. And it almost looks the same. So like it's weird. Like there's two separate studios making two games that look pretty similar to each other. Coincidence, Jennifer Hale is actually in this game as well. Talking about Bayonetta. Wow. And it's so they have there's chevrons effectively moving in towards your crosshair in the middle of the screen, and when they reach a certain point, that's when you're supposed to pull the trigger. And pulling the trigger on the beat does more damage, and builds up your fury multiplier. And the fury multiplier, which gives you points because it's a rhythm game, right? So you're going for score actually. As the multiplier goes up, it introduces heavier parts of the track. So if you get it up to 16x, you're in like chorus land with all the vocals, like, and all the screaming and the stuff going on, and the levels have like fire that's going like I don't know, I get like pyros at a stage concert going off in time with the beat, and it's like, this is rad. Like it's just so much, like it just looks cool, and when you're getting it right, it feels cool. I will say, huge problem I had in the beginning was getting the calibration down.
Oh, really?
I found that it has got one of those like run calibration audio and visual checks that will make you tap to the stuff on screen. But what I realized, like I suspected this for a while, but it turns out my rig had a huge amount of audio delay. I've been thinking this for a while since do you remember like earlier in the year I said like, oh, I got surround sound working.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
With my Xbox through my amp and through my specific TV. I think I've had it since then, and it basically made Hellsinger unplayable because I just could not get the matching down. And that's because it was like, I reckon it must have been like nearly a quarter of a second out, something ridiculously large.
Oh my god, that's huge.
Yeah, and I can't believe I didn't notice it like for this long. It's really bad for me. Like. So anyway, I dropped my Xbox back down to stereo mode. Lag goes away almost completely, and this thing is like,
oh, okay.
This thing is a joy to play, but you do have to be pretty precise on your beat matching, like fairly precise. There are certain actions that don't work at all unless you're very close to perfect.
So you don't shoot if you're not on the beat.
You do shoot, but you do much, much less damage.
I see.
And there's like a glory kill mechanic like Doom, where they'll go into a staggered state, and then you have to click the right stick. But if you don't do that, that's an occasion where if you don't do that well enough, it just won't do anything. And you'll there are certain parts of the game that I think are mildly annoying, like when you're not in combat, the game encourages you to still be shooting on the beat in order to keep your multiplier up. And it's
that's weird. Nothing to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're not shooting at anything. You just switch to like the most basic gun you have, I suppose, and just be like bang, 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 bang on the beats. And it's like, I would quite like to have a moment. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I think it would be fine if the game actually allowed you to like have everything calm down, like for the fury level to go down from 16 down to 1, but it rates you at the end for how many of beat matches you did at maximum fury and how long you took to get through the level. So like speedrunning is fine, but like I wish the level had more, the main levels had more of an ebb to them, like so it would be like, here's a fight, let's make it go mad, let's calm it down a bit, now let's get into another fight and make it go mad, like,
or do something really ridiculous and just like implement some other mechanics to do that are like more gentle, like make it so that like in a Doom level where you're just walking around opening doors, but opening doors is still beat matched, so you have to do that to keep your combo going.
I mean, technically you have to, when you finish a combat arena, like a one wall turns into a destructible wall and you have to shoot it, right. But like, so you are doing that on the beat, I suppose, but it's just, you're doing everything on the beat, like you get rewarded for dashing on the beat as well, like a little side dodge stuff like that.
Yeah, that should kind of take over, right? Like if they could have made the movement between the fights be a separate thing and just have that be a
separate rhythm game of some kind. Yeah. Anywho, like for a short play session, I think it's rad. Like it sounds good, it plays good. I think I am going to have to turn up the brightness, though. It does seem a little dark in spots and a little tricky to see things. But weakest part might be the boss fights. The end of every level has a kind of boss encounter. And I'm not sure they play quite as well as just shooting shit on a beat, just like, and I don't think the game will have many different weapons or things like that. It doesn't look like it's got a huge amount of content, is what I'm saying. But I'm only a couple levels in, 3 levels in, and I've done there are a few side challenges as well. But yeah, if you want to get a metal fix, this is a really good way to do it.
Nice. Yeah. What's it called again?
Metal Hellsinger.
Metal Hellsinger. Cool. Okay,
I like the fact that they describe it as like it's hells. So it's like there's multiple hells, and it's like in each level is a hell.
All different hells.
All many hells.
It's not just one hell, there's plenty of hells.
Yeah.
And they all involve shoot to the beat.
Yeah, it's decent. It's really decent. Having a good time with that. I was introduced last night to Warhammer Vermintide 2.
I see the strategy of trying to get people to play Derg didn't pay off.
Not 100%. They've drifted into, well, the main one of the Cambridge crew who really was into Derg, but hasn't been about for a bit, there, so he can drag more people with him. But like, yeah, Vermintide seems to have taken over.
But it is similar in some ways.
Similar in some ways. So, for those that don't know, Vermintide is a 4-player co-op shooter. They're very much pulling from the Left 4 Dead playbook, but not with the same vibe. Like the most obvious difference, like right from the off, is that this game seems to prefer. It's a bit like how Left 4 Dead 2 started drifting, I suppose, to the winds. It loves a horde. Like, just stuff coming at you all the time.
That's just Warhammer, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're just like hordes of stuff.
Yeah. It's very, like, full on all the time, pretty much. There are a few moments of downtime, but it won't be long before a literal horn sounds and you're in another fight. But it's got a similar sort of structure. As like there are I guess it's not like the movie structure of Left 4 Dead where there's like 3 or 4 stages, I suppose, within a camp. You're playing a mission is like a level. You play a level like on its own. And you do that, but I guess the core. I mean, it plays pretty well. It's melee focused most of the time. Like there are ranged attacks, but you're often ammo limited. At least with the character I'm playing, like ranged ammo I'm playing as the ranger currently, and or was last night, and they're ammo is a bit of a limitation. So you're not doing that all the time. You're getting up in people's faces and spearing them. And doing a bit of blocking and a bit of parrying and a bit of shoving, and there's quite a lot going on. I think it's quite a good looking game, which helps as well.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, so it's even with quite a lot of stuff on screen, I think it looked pretty nice. But then, like, I think I'm comparing it to Left 4 Dead too much in my head, right? Left 4 Dead was a long time ago now, so of course it's going to look better than that. But I think this carries itself pretty well. I guess the key difference really is that it's got RPG trappings because Warhammer, I guess. Like, so you're not just playing around and then being like, well, let's up the difficulty. I should say the campaigns are kind of fixed levels. They're not procedurally generated. They're designed things. So I guess it doesn't immediately. I'm thinking it probably doesn't have the replayability of Derg, but. Like it's doing some manipulations to be like, this level's not quite the same as you did before. It's doing some directory type stuff. For those familiar with Left 4 Dead. But yeah, it's got these RPG trappings. So at the end of every level, your character levels up, and that starts unlocking a talent tree. So you can start getting these boons to help you out. You're uncovering items to equip in different slots, which will up your power level and up your damage outputs. And equally, the game is scaling as you do that. So as you're leveling up the enemy, you're going to fight the stronger, tougher enemies more often because your character power level is higher. There is a general difficulty level as well, so you can up it if you want to just generally face harder scenarios and gain more experience, that kind of stuff. So it's it's pulling the usual bag of tricks from RPGs, I suppose, to give you something to work towards. There's of course a cosmetic store and stuff like that as well. Blah 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 blah. It encourages you to log in every day, and you get free, like you get money towards cosmetics, like if you log in every day. It's got a bit of that. But generally, it plays pretty well, and I had a really good time with it. I ended up playing like a 3-odd hour session, constant. Like
I also noticed that when I came back to my Steam at 1 o'clock in the morning and Rob had only just finished playing, yeah. I was like, oh, yeah, that happened.
It went. It hooked me. It was good. I had a really good time with it. I think the thing that's most interesting about it, and I think is what the Cambridge crew do most often, is it has these, like, I guess the equivalent of Derg's deep dive, but like these are quite long.
Right.
It has this thing that I didn't actually catch what the actual name of it was, honestly, because I was like, whistle stop. These guys know what they're doing. It's like, well, I'm just joining in. You just set things up. I'll just shoot things. Yeah. They were calling it the pilgrimage, and that seems to be like you play a set of levels in a row, but the only things that you get to take into the pilgrimage with you are your weaponry, and like any other stuff you've got equipped. Doesn't matter, doesn't care. And as you're going through those levels, you have to find the upgrades in the levels. But you have to find the coins, which you then have to spend at these upgrade points as you come across them. And those upgrades can be like, I'm going to enhance your weapon. It doesn't tell you what it's enhancing it to, but it says the power level. It tells you the power level of what you're going to get. So it's like, it's going to be more powerful, but you don't quite know what it's going to be. So for the ranger, that's quite annoying because different bows actually have different ammo capacities. So it's like some of them only carry 19 arrows. Some of them will carry 99 arrows. So it's like, if I upgrade this, I'm going to get a better bow. I know that much, but it's like ammo is really quite a big deal for the ranger. As I feel like 20 arrows isn't enough. So I'm equipping when I can the ones that have a lot of ammo, but you can't see that when you're upgrading. But you might also come across things like there are just boons like stashed around, and it'd be like you can be like, pay some cash, get a random boon, and it'll give you a random like stat boost of some description, like, oh, if you headshot an enemy, you'll gain a little bit of health, or some other modifiers that happen. The levels can have a random modifier applied to them as you're going through this thing. It presents them in like a map, so there are actually choices of the players can vote on which route they want to go. Like halfway through the pilgrimage, there's a place to stop and just buy things with the money you've gained. This actually seems pretty cool, right? It's like a how to do. They've roguelighted the experience across multiple levels.
Yeah. And it takes about as long.
it takes a long time. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had heard that Vermintide was decent. I can now confirm I think it's decent.
Can confirm. Excellent. Oh, that's good.
I wish the audio barks weren't quite so frequent, though. There were quite a lot of repeats.
Well, that is a problem with Dirk as well.
Yeah.
Which is like, these dwarves won't fucking shut up. And then they're talking over themselves even.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes that does happen. I kind of don't mind it. Even though it's like one guy voice acting all of the dwarfs, somehow I don't mind it as much in Dirk, like, at all. And it's like, but weirdly here, there were like certain conversations, like they were talking about my character's name, and like they were just quite like a several line conversation.
Right. I guess that is slightly worse when it is like a whole thing.
Yeah, I suppose it's a little bit
all the lines in Dirk are just independent, basically.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit like the flavor stuff from Left 4 Dead, like that they throw in every now and then. But they had this conversation in the lobby before we started a mission, and then we started the mission, and then they had the same conversation again within like the first couple of minutes, and it's like, okay, you probably need to rein that in a little. I think that's like my current bugbear of games, right? That there's just too much flavor audio.
Too much flavor.
Too much flavor dialogue that's repeated.
Yes.
That's come up a few times recently.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Give it 10 more years and then all the AI dialogue will just happen, and infinite dialogue. No voice acting needed.
And it will be kind of uncanny valley of dialogue. Yeah,
I realise I'm about to go into possibly playing Bayonetta 3 soon as well, where, you know, she kind of has that. Bayonetta's always had that problem in Bayonetta 1 and 2 as well, right? Where she's like saying the same things as she's doing combos. So I realise I might run into that problem again, but I guess it's less annoying when it's like a word rather than like constantly saying a whole conversation.
I was playing something that I had that happen. Like, there was one voice clip. It was at the end of a combo. Oh, it was Age of Calamity when I've been playing by myself.
Oh, right.
Whereas there's like, I started noticing it more because it's all in my ears. I'm just like, oh, every time you go to this part of this combo, he says the same thing, and it's real dumb.
I think that happens with quite a few of them, right? Like,
yes. Some of them are more noticeable than others. Some of them have more audible words rather than just sounds.
Yeah. I think Koga's got a bit of random. It's not always the same thing. Like, but sometimes it's like, you know, when he falls off the roll, running on the ball attack, and he just sort of get like, if you fail it and you fall off, and he goes, "Not that easy."
Yes.
But then some of his dodge sounds are quite funny, where he's just like, "Koga."
Yes, which doesn't make much sense. It's funny.
Cool.
Yeah. I will yield there until I can remember. I'm sure there was something else I played. But
you played that anti-gravity racing.
Shit, yes, I did.
That's what you actually need to talk about.
No, I really need to talk about this, right? Okay, so yeah, I finally got around to trying BallisticNG, which is a love letter to PlayStation 1 Wipeout games. Like, it is outright just trying to be them. It doesn't make any indication that it's not trying to do that. To the point where you can start the graphics are styled on that, like every texture is pixelated and low quality and like low color, and like just like they were back then. You can even turn on the texture warping and vertex like jiggle that PlayStation 1 had in the options, and it's pretty authentic looking. It's got to be said. It's pretty good. And it even tries to match the handling model of the more modern Wipeouts, but I haven't found it yet, but I think there is an option to make it play like old Wipeout if you want to as well. And yeah, it's pretty good. It is, I guess, for something trying to be Wipeout, this is the closest you're going to get to that, and it is very close. It is very close. And if you want to, like, obviously Steam Workshop has a whole bunch of Wipeout stuff on there that people have made, so you can just load Wipeout gear into it if you want to.
What about the tracks?
Some tracks are there, yeah. Okay. I've played a few classics from Wipeout 3 and Wipeout 2, or 2097, or Wipeout XL if you're American. I've played a few of those, and some of the vehicles and stuff have all been brought in. I think the music is quite like. I think it's all been made for the game. I'm not quite sure. Like maybe it hasn't, maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. But it's got that kind of like, it's got that old school vibe. It's well picked. It's well made. It's not quite as classic as those original soundtracks. Nothing is going to beat the Wipeout 3 soundtrack in my head. That is
no.
That is top
I mean,
tier.
that was a special moment in culture, wasn't it? Kind of where it was kind of coincided with all of that.
Oh man, everything came together for
British
Wipeout
dance
3.
Culture, yeah, at the time.
I mean, yeah, Sasha and Chemical Brothers and Paul Van Dyke. Yeah. It's like, oh, what a soundtrack!
Yeah,
and a lot of it was custom made by Sasha as well, with like 4 Wipeout 3, and it just works brilliantly.
Yeah, like that's never going to happen again.
No, maybe not. But yeah, they do a pretty good job of that here. It's got a little bit of that audio mixing thing that I don't like, that all anti-grav games seem to do now, where if there's stuff happening, it fades the music out a bit, and I'm like, please don't do that. I want to listen to this music. I'm having a surprisingly good time with it. And I wouldn't say it's like it hooks me like a modern anti-grav does, but as a throwback, but it's really quite good. The bit I really want to talk about, though, is it has a VR mode.
Okay.
And I was like, I haven't really tried pushing my motion sickness legs in VR since I've got one of these headsets. I'm going to play this because I bet this is going to be either at the limit or beyond what I can deal with. It is beyond what I can deal with. It's got a pretty good implementation, I'll give it that. Like, the VR is good, but I felt pretty ill. I could not play it for very long.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, I thought I was fine. Like, I did a few races and like start to finish, and I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm all right. And then almost like a light switch, like I did 1 or 2 more, and I was like, okay, I'm now starting to feel something. So I did what I thought was the wise choice and was like, okay, I'm feeling not right now. I'm going to stop. The feeling of being bad did not get better, or did not stop getting worse. Like, it got worse for like an hour or 2 after I stopped playing. It was like, what is going on? Like, why am I not feeling? It did eventually get all right, and then I started playing Vermintide, so it's all right. I recovered. But that was it's a little bit disappointing in a way. It's like I kind of knew I was going to have a little bit of trouble, but to that extent, it was more trouble than I was expecting. I did just lay on the couch with my eyes closed for a while, thinking like, I actually don't know what I can do right now. Like, I just don't feel right.
Right. So how do I get back to normal? It's like.
It's some anti-seasickness medicine.
Yeah.
See if that'll help.
Yeah. Oh, it was weird.
It was a weird drug taker, yeah. Like, I'll never feel normal again. That acid trip has just completely destroyed me.
It was a really strange experience. I mean, I'm glad I tried it, but absolutely. And but I don't think I could manage more than a couple races in a row before.
No.
It's good in a way because it now knows where my limits are. Well, like, that's probably beyond my limits. I need to find something slightly lower. If I wanted to try like the whole racing game thing, like getting the wheel out and doing a racing game, like, I'm now slightly dubious about how well I'll deal with that.
Well, how much does the camera tilt, like, in that game? Because like the Wipeout cars are well known for tilting a lot. Yeah,
so by default they have a few comfort options for this. By default, they make it so your view angles to the track, not to the car.
Right.
So your view will follow the banks of the turns.
Maybe is still pretty bad for a Wipeout game.
Maybe, yeah. You're not limited to the cockpit view as well. You can play it from just behind the cam if you want to.
Right.
Which I'm not sure is any better. But the problem I had is like some of the ships I tried, like the first ship I tried had like a transparent canopy, which was nice. Like it made so it would wireframe it out, and you just see like a center console in quite an annoying place in the middle of the screen. I have to admit, like maybe I'm just too short for where it thinks my head should be, but like the actual console for the ship was like right where I needed to see. But anyway, and so that was all right. So the canopy would then move around you as the ship tilted. But there was one ship I tried where it was just like, oh, we're rendering this in full, and it's like this bulky ass canopy, like that's not transparent. It was like fully. And I was like, I can't see a thing when if I go over a jump, like I can't see where I am, and where I'm landing or what turn is coming up, and that was a bit of a problem. So yeah, they actually add a little mark on screen saying what the cockpit visibility is like. They rate it,
right,
and be like, "Oh, cockpit visibility high," so you kind of know what you're getting into. They've thought about it. I think they have other comfort options as well to basically just turn off the tilt entirely, so the camera's always perfectly upright, and which I didn't try, but maybe that would help. And in fairness, in VR, I didn't try it with any of the PlayStation 1 gubbins on. Cause
that would probably be bad.
I don't want to play it like that, but I want to load into a level and just look around and see what it looks like see if things are still jiggling. Like, or if do they jiggle in the world in place, or like are they jiggling with the camera? Like, because every time you move, then it's all going to go. Look, which probably means it's going to be doing that all the time, right? Because your head's never perfectly stationary.
Yeah, but like it's not. That's not going to be how it works in that engine, right? Because it's not actually. It's simulating what the PlayStation does. It's not actually doing what the PlayStation does, because it's going to be actually like modifying the physical coordinates of the vertexes, not just like rendering it like it is.
No, you're probably right. It'll probably be the physical location of the vertex in the world, like is operating at a, it's not a full float or whatever. It's operating on some integer.
Yeah,
like. The precision isn't there.
So it's not really going to be related to the camera exactly.
Hopefully not, no. But the texture warping is, right? Because the texture warping is all to do with how it goes off the edge of the screens. I might give that a go. I'm not going to race it, but I might give that a go just to see what it looks like. Yeah. So I still haven't got around to trying things like Dirt Rally in VR. I think you can do with Dirt Rally 1.
Yeah,
I've not got Dirt Rally. I don't think I have Dirt Rally 2. But,
I think you do.
Oh, do I?
I think I saw it in your Steam list.
It was on my Game Pass list at one point. Like, I don't know if it's still there, but yeah. So I'm a little bit worried now about trying that, because it's like maybe they'll get it's obviously it's not as fast as Wipeout.
And it should theoretically tilt less than some of those options.
And I think one of the complaints that people have about BallisticNG is that the slowest speed, the speed categories are a lot closer together.
Right.
So the slowest speed in BallisticNG is actually like halfway up the Wipeout tree, if that makes sense. But then the top speed is kind of like at the top of, like, I guess Phantom. I guess it was in Wipeout, right? So it's like they don't have the slow speeds.
Right.
For some reason. I don't know why. It's a bit of a weird decision, if you ask me. I lost my train of thought. Just stuck in video. Anyway, BallisticNG. It's worth checking out. I think it might be free. I don't know. My Steam has always had a weird relationship with it, because it's been in my list since forever, but then for a while it wouldn't let me play it.
Right.
And I don't know why. Yeah. All right. Anyway, check it out. It's good. Good week for me.
Yep.
Yeah, done well. And what about you, Zach?
Well, I haven't played much, which is convenient for this situation. Okay. So one thing I did play was I went back to sort of the demo of Against the Storm, that game I talked about before.
Oh, yeah.
The roguelike city builder thing. But mainly because it's on Steam now. Because I played it on the Epic Store before,
right.
And they hadn't released the demo onto Steam. and now they've put the demo on Steam. Also, the game's about to come out, so
Okay, so it didn't turn out to be an Epic exclusive.
No. Well, no, yeah, it does actually have an October release date on Steam as well, so it's going to happen. But yeah, I went back in there to see if anything really had changed in the demo. But I don't think much has changed in the demo, but I think since I last saw it, I think they've expanded what's in the actual game if you were in the early access part of it. Which I don't like. The one thing that I found weird that isn't in the demo but is mentioned in the upcoming or whatever, and I think might be in the early access version currently, is so the whole sort of balance of that game is you have the 3 different races and they have different requirements. Like the different races like different types of food or whatever, so if you're satisfying one of them because of the roguelike nature of it, you might not get the right buildings to make the food for every race. Gotcha. So you have to balance that out with other things. Yeah. But then, so one of the things that is coming up is a 4th race, and I'm like, that's just going to make it way more complicated, right? You're going to have even more struggle trying to keep it all in balance. Because just like it's only like adding one, but it's like adding so many layers of options that you have to manage.
I think that might be attached to a difficulty slider or something.
Well, I'm wondering whether you'll always have all 4, maybe. Yeah, like maybe you only pick 3, but there are 4 or something.
Yeah, or maybe that's just doled out to you certain challenges.
Yeah, or maybe like it's related to progress through the cycle of the year or whatever, maybe. Like as you get through, maybe the first couple of cities you establish only have 3 or something, and then as you get later in the cycle, you get more. I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah,
but yeah, and then
you discover them or something on your trails, and it's like, right now you got this guy to deal with.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, apart from that, it seems mostly the same in this demo, which is good, I guess. I played it again, and I was like, oh yeah, I think I probably might buy this game because it's good enough, and I am kind of interested to see where it goes with them, because like I said the first time I played the demo, it's like it does give you quite a lot in just the demo. Like there are quite a lot of different buildings that you can, a limited set that you have access to in each level, and there are enough of them that even replaying through the demo can give you quite different setups.
Right,
but then like that's only the demo, so there must be more, right? So it must get even more complicated.
I wonder if it like there must be more, right? It's kind of like just giving me like the nostalgia trip to the shareware days, right? Where it's just like there must be a bit more than it, and then you buy it, and it's like, oh, there isn't actually that much more than this.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure there must be in this case. But yeah, I'm also kind of interested to see how it manages the like complexity as you get deeper into the roguelike runs, because like what you're unlocking as you progress up like the meta tech tree thing is you're unlocking the blueprints basically, but in that roguelike way you unlock the blueprints, but then it's random whether you will see that blueprint in the next run or whatever, in the same way as like Gungeon or whatever unlocking the guns.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, as you unlock more and more of these blueprints, and so the random pool gets higher and higher, does that actually just make it more difficult and awkward to deal with? Because you're less likely, because it's the way
you're less likely to get the just base useful stuff.
Yeah, you're less likely to get the basics maybe, and also like you're less likely to be able to build a whole chain, because it does sort of like as you progress through building the town, at certain points through the progression, you unlock a new blueprint, and those blueprints do like progress themselves. So like the first one you unlock will be something basic like a harvesting camp, and then as you get further into the level, you'll get the more complicated buildings like a brewery or whatever that uses the basic resources. But you won't necessarily always have the options that make those line up. You won't also always be able to get the whole chain.
Yeah.
Like you won't be necessarily
have a horrible gap in the middle.
Yeah, you'll get a missing piece, and then obviously maybe you can compensate that by like traders or whatever.
Yeah,
you can just buy the missing piece.
There has to be ways around that, right? Otherwise, that's a pretty crucial design flaw. Like,
because that's why I'm worried about like the more buildings you get, the more likely it is you'll end up with broken chains, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Remind me, this isn't the one on the dinosaur back, is it? Like,
No, that's Wandering Village.
Wandering Village, gotcha. Yeah, and you always had some more of a clue in it in the title, but I knew you were there was some other roguelite-y city buildery thing.
That one's slightly less roguelite in the city building aspect in that one, because it's more about the moving the village through the world thing.
I see, okay.
Whereas in this one, it's actually the roguelite element is the actual buildings you get.
Right, yeah. That's an interesting idea, though.
Yeah.
I'm sure I get the feeling I may have asked this when you first talked about it, but like, do you think something like that would be a way to mix up like straight up sim games like SimCity or whatever? It'd be like, oh, you haven't, for some reason we can't build police stations.
Well, they sort of kind of started doing that, right? Like in SimCity 5, when they had the like expansion modules to the buildings, and those were unlockable. So you didn't always have immediate access to them.
Right.
I don't think it was random. It was more like a progression thing.
I see, yeah. You had to hit a target maybe to get them.
Or you had to do a specific thing. Because that's kind of the way City Skylines does it, I guess, except it's not very restrictive, where it's like you have to fill certain conditions to unlock certain buildings, where it's like, oh, if you have this much industry, you get this industry-related building. So it's sort of similar to that, but not as random.
Right, I see.
But yeah, that is an interesting idea, I guess, for the roguelike city builders.
Yeah.
But as I said, I think I said this at the time.
Not even roguelike city builders, just to see if like it was
regular ones.
But I suppose you set those challenges yourself, right? If you're going to do that with those sorts of games, it's like, can I survive without this thing?
Yeah, and or in some cases with like City Skylines, it's like you can design around them, and that's sort of a challenge in itself. Like, if you don't want to have a shit ton of industry or dirty industry or whatever, do it another way, and then you won't get that building, I guess, because you're not building those requisites.
You're gunning that direction, yeah.
So yeah, that's that. That's Against the Storm. And then apart from that, I've mainly played a ton of Factorio by myself still. Still continuing with my solo space exploration game. And I didn't really rebuild my main base. I augmented my main base. So my original main base still exists, but it's just got I just upgraded all the smelters and built them somewhere else, and now I just ship the materials in by train. But the main thing I've been doing is just
realistic.
Well, yeah, kind of. But the main thing I've been doing is just preparing for moving my entire base. Because as I said last time, I was thinking about, I want to move to a completely different planet and have that new planet be my main base. But in order to do that, I kind of have to have a base to make the stuff to be able to do that, which is why I was upgrading my original main base. But I was like, I don't want to completely redo my main base because I'm about to leave.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time upgrading the original main base to just leave and go and make a new one. But mainly what I have been doing is basically just making a lot of blueprints and stuff that are just sort of, well, mainly I've been making blueprints that are aligned to a standardized grid, so you can just paste them down. I already had blueprints for the rail network. All my rail network blueprints were grid aligned, so you just you have a straight piece and you have a junction piece and you just stamp them down and it just all lines up automatically, so you can just build railway networks really quickly that way. So I was fiddling around with those and making a few space exploration specific versions of blueprints, like the artillery post, where it's it's a junction off the main train line and it has its own defenses and whatnot. And then I was getting ahead of myself maybe, but while I was doing that, I was like, well, I may as well make 3 different versions of my the artillery post that have different layers of defenses depending on how far I get into the game when the enemies get harder. Which is still way ahead of. I still only need the lightest design that I made is still more than enough. Right. But I made here's the medium version and here's the heavy version for the future, just in case. Although those might actually be portable outside space exploration, because I don't think they have any space exploration specific stuff in those blueprints.
Right, I see.
So I might be able to just take those, like the railway, just take those into future games. But yeah, and then I made a tileable wall blueprint, so that's all aligned to a grid now, so when I need to enclose a new area, I can just stamp down a square around it real quick, which is useful for making new mines. And then I'd also calculated and made, when I made these new smelting setups on the home planet, I was like, I can make these not necessarily as a blueprint right now, but in the style of a blueprint. Like, make them so they're sort of grid aligned, just bear in mind where the grid will be, but I'm not actually going to worry about grid aligning them yet. So then when I move to the new planet, I can actually grid align everything and then just...
When you say grid align, I didn't realize Factorio had the ability to not be grid aligned. I assumed everything was like on a a snap to.
Well, yes, they are. It's all on a tile. It's a tile based system, but
is your grid like several tiles? Is that what you mean? Or
well, technically, it's like a chunk aligned. So like in Minecraft or any other game like this, the world is divided into chunks, which is more to do with rendering than anything else.
Yeah, sure.
But like, so in Factorio, they're like 32 by 32 chunks of map.
Okay.
And that's sort of a convenient size for a lot of things, like the rail network. Like, technically, it's arguably slightly inconvenient for the power lines because, like, the large power cables have a length of 32, which you'd think would align perfectly with a 32 long grid.
Except you've got to connect them to things.
Well, but because the power poles are like a 2x2 grid, technically in order to reach between the edge of a 32 block length, the power cable needs to be longer than 32, which some mods do actually fix by like giving them a 32.5 length, which makes it just long enough to connect the 32 squares.
Okay.
But Space Exploration doesn't, but that's fine because I'd already accounted for that in my previous rail blueprints where I just have like an extra power pole in the middle. And because it's a 32 width, it divides by 2, so you can have a power pole in the middle, it's fine. And it doesn't mess anything up. And it aligns with like the rail junctions and whatnot, and actually makes it sort of easier to see where the middle of the tiles are as well.
It's funny that they've essentially introduced a problem that wouldn't be a problem in real life. Like, we just shorten the distance.
I mean, I don't know why they never did change it in vanilla. I think they changed it up to 32. I think it was 30 before.
Or what, thinking you'd put the power pole in to get it up to 32? Or
well, I don't know. I think it was 30 before, and then I think they changed it to 32, but that didn't actually fix this problem, which is the problem that people had with it. And then there are a few things that are slightly weird on the 32.
Shouldn't they just be like shouldn't power cables just be sort of like, again, SimCity like, where you can just sort of drag them out any length you want?
Well, you have to have the poles to support them. That's the point. They have to be
you can put the poles down like where you like, and then just have the cables suspended.
The cables can only be so long, right?
Yeah, you have a max, sure.
Well, that's what the 32 is.
Yeah, but then you could sort of like tailor it by having like, I don't know, like a 20, and then like add things on, and like then it could be the length you need for your design, I guess.
That's not exactly how it works. It's like the maximum distance between the power poles is 32. And then, like, that's for the large power poles that are only designed for long distance. And then the ones which actually transmit to the buildings have, like, 9 range or whatever. But, yeah, and then there are a few other things that aren't really suitable for the 32 grid alignment. Like, the roboports have, like, a 60 tile range, I think. So which is, like, not quite twice the 32. And it's like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Put another one of those in the middle of every third tile or whatever. I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to commit to a full RoboPort coverage tile grid. Because the trouble with space exploration is, in some ways, it almost, like, in some ways it enhances the need for robots, because, like, if you're not on a planet and a rocket crashes there and damages a bunch of shit, and you're not there, if you have robots there, they can just go and repair it for you. And you can, like, even, like, send the robots the materials if buildings get fully destroyed rather than just damaged. You can send the robots the stuff and have them fix it for you. But the, like, counter to that is that space exploration also introduces a well, I guess it's not actually technically in space exploration, it's in one of the sub-mods. Introduces a mechanic called robot attrition, where basically robots get killed by the environment over time, depending on how harsh the environment of the planet is. So then now you're having to think about, well, now the robots are going to run out, so I have to also send extra robots to each planet over time. So it's adding, like, another layer of the slight awkwardness of these logistics. And also in the early game, you're like, but robots are expensive. Of course, but at this point, they're not really. I'm way past the point where robots are expensive. I could easily just put as many robots as I wanted, but the trouble is having to manage shipping them everywhere.
Yeah, getting them and maintaining them.
I mean, arguably, that's not really a problem. Like, I could probably just send 1,000 robots, and that would be good for, like, hours, many hours, and I probably wouldn't have to worry about it. Also, because they wouldn't be doing stuff most of the time; they'd be inside the roboports. But
which doesn't degrade
them. It's only when they're flying around.
Right.
But yeah, and it tries to balance it by the hostile threat level of the planet is inversely proportional to the rate that the robots get destroyed. So if you're on a planet with a high percentage on the aliens, so there's a lot of aliens around, those generally have low robot attrition. But if you're on an empty planet, those have super high robot attrition.
Huh. Weird.
So on those planets, it's you don't have to worry about any kind of defense because there's no enemies.
Yeah.
Which makes robots real cool because you don't have to worry about, them flying into enemies.
Yeah.
But then the robot attrition kills them off instead. And then obviously space is a whole other thing. I think everywhere in space just has high robot attrition due to radiation. So using robots in space is automatically going to degrade a lot of them over time. Although I feel like I maybe need to experiment to see how bad it really is, because it just gives you a number, and I've only ever had so the starting planet that you start on has robot attrition of 1, and that has I've noticed robots crashing, but it's only I don't know, 1 every 10 minutes or something. Admittedly, I haven't been standing in my base just watching robots fly around. It's only while I'm there, it's I'll notice one crash and it's oh, that happened. So I don't know actually what the rate of attrition actually is. But then a empty planet or the radiation zone in space has a robot attrition of 12. And I'm so how much worse is that compared to 1?
Right,
is it a literal linear scale or is it some other kind of...
Is it 12 times worse or is it... Yeah, some sub factor.
So I might need to experiment with that at some point, but I just need to get off this goddamn first planet at some point. I've got these 2 other planets, and I've also, while I was redesigning my first planet base, I redesigned my railguns to be able to launch. I've now got nicely laid out railguns that are easily duplicated by Blueprint to expand, where it's you've got the one set of railguns that launches all the uranium and stuff you need to make nuclear fuel, so I can just drop a nuclear power plant on a new planet and just railgun the fuel into it, basically.
That sounds safe.
Yep. And then I've also got another set of railguns that sends all the components for the planetary defense cannons that stop the meteor strikes from hitting your stuff. So I can just basically land on a new planet, drop a nuclear power plant, drop a meteor defense, have all the components to power those sent by railgun, and then that'll basically make that planet safe. So I should be able to do that pretty easily now. The only trouble is that, it's a nice system in theory, but it is slightly annoying to set up because you have to manually target all the railguns because it's actually a weirdly analog system for most of the way Factorio works, where you open the railguns UI, you click the select target button, and then you actually physically click on the view of the world where you want the railgun to go, and it's up to you to make sure that is into a receiving chest and not just
in the ground.
in the ground, which makes it not automatable in any way.
Yeah,
you actually physically have to Well, I guess you don't have to physically interact with it because you can do it from the satellite view. You don't have to. Your character doesn't have to physically be next to the railgun necessarily, but you do have to do it. You can't just tell it, come to this chest and then do it. Because normally a lot of things in Factorio you just do by naming it, like the train stations.
All right.
So if you have if you want to have a multi-lane train station that can have 4 trains, you just name all the train stations the same, and then any train that passes through it just picks one of them. So whichever one's free.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's all kind of automated, and that applies to space explorations like rocketry as well. If you name a rocket landing pad fuel, but you have multiple landing pads that are called fuel, when a rocket is ready to launch that's targeting a landing pad called fuel, it will just go to one of them.
Pick any of them. Oh.
And that's that. So yeah, the railguns don't work like that. You can't name the receiving chest and then have the railguns automatically targeted
just pick
or something.
One to shoot. Yeah.
And the same sort of applies to the.
Yeah, weird. I wonder why that is different.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that because railguns are too convenient, do they think? Like,
well, maybe. Because the actual way you have to manage the railguns, because this is the other thing that's slightly inconvenient about them, is like they also don't have signal attachment. Like, because a lot of like the inserters and whatnot, the arms that grab stuff you can connect a wire to them to send a signal to them to enable and disable them. And a lot of other buildings, well, I guess not a lot of other buildings, but a lot of other stuff in Factorio has that connection. But the railgun building itself doesn't. So unless you have to connect to the inserter putting stuff into it, or otherwise it will just keep firing forever and then overfill the chest and then explode it.
Right.
Because if the chest is full and it fires again, it just blows the thing up. So you have to connect the inserter to the like circuit condition to tell it to turn off. But then because obviously the receiving chest is on a completely other planet, you then have to use the signal transmitters, and those are linked by a named channel. So you name the circuit condition channel that it's looking for at each end, the transmitter and the receiver, and then you have to send the conditions through that. And then I had the like awkward problem with that is that like if the power goes down, the signal turns off. But then if for example, you've set the railgun to be like, if there's less than 100 iron in the box, fire the railgun.
But it won't know.
But then if the signal goes off and the signal goes to 0, it's like, oh, there's less than 100, better fire.
Yeah.
It's like, so now I've had to like...
It would have to be and it's greater than 0.
Well, I've got the way I've fixed that problem is on the transmitting end, I send an extra signal through that's just like the power register signal, and then on the receiving end, it multiplies the actual signal by the power registering signal. So if the power registering signal goes to 0, it just zeroes it out, and then it realizes that that's happened, and therefore doesn't fire the railgun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the problem, and also the fucking signal transmitters take a shit ton of power, annoyingly. That's the actual problem I've been running into, because it's like I've settled on the volcanic planet, which is closest to the sun in my system. There's only one planet that's actually closer to the sun than the starting planet in this system. It's because it's random. So I've settled on that, and I'm like, oh, holy shit, solar powers are way better here. Not just because it's like the solar is 115% effective, but also because like the day-night cycle is super short, so it doesn't require as many accumulators to like the batteries to account for the nighttime part. So it makes building the solar arrays super efficient. I was like, great, that means I don't have to build a nuclear power station. Also because there's no water, so I wouldn't be able to run the steam for the nuclear power without importing water, which would be dumb. So I was like, that's great. But then when I come to build the meteor defense railguns that use like 200 megawatts by themselves, and then signal transmitters to tell the thing sending the railgun ammo, it's just like, this all adds up, so I had to build a goddamn ton more solar powers. I'm like, maybe I should just build a nuclear power station and import water, because space exploration also does give you a different version of steam turbines that use less steam. Like they're called condenser turbines, where they condense the steam after they've used it for the turbine, so you get like most of the water back. There's obviously a way to account for that problem. You are still going to need to import some water, but maybe not much. But then we're back to the same problem with the robots, where it's like you are going to have to do that gradually over time.
Yeah. Railgun it.
Yeah, I mean, you can railgun water. But that's the thing about the railguns, where it's like now I'm thinking about the expense of the railguns, because having to make the railgun capsules costs some amount of resources, which is why it's great for like the nuclear fuel, where you only need to launch one of those every however many hours, because a tiny amount of uranium lasts so long. Whereas if you're talking about constantly launching something through the railgun, it's like, this is getting way less efficient because I'm using so much making the railgun capsules.
Sure.
That's where you change over to rockets, but then rockets are almost too big. Where it's like, I've got this huge 500 slot inventory in this rocket. That's maybe too much stuff. So yeah, I think I'm at the point, I'm sure I said this last time, I think I'm at the point where I could probably maybe start this new base for real. I think I've done enough preparation that I should just be able to do it.
You're nearly there. Maybe it will actually happen.
And then
months in the making.
Then I'm not even sure what I need to do after that. The main thing I need to set up in a new proper base is like an actual high-powered like rocket maker, like use a lot of resources to just make rocket parts as fast as possible, so that I can actually start using a shit ton more rockets. Which is also one of the reasons that I've decided on the planet I'm settling on, because it's high in oil, so obviously for fuel. So I'm just like, I can make the rocket fuel here, make all the rocket parts as efficiently as possible, and then just distribute them all over the place, hopefully. And also it's not got a very high robot attrition, so I'm like, that's a good place for my main base. Does mean there's enemies, of course. It's not a completely barren planet, which is way easier. But I'm still at the point where the enemies aren't a problem, as I said about the defenses. It's like space exploration rebalances the evolution curve of the enemies to make it much less reliant on time, obviously, because you're going to be here for a lot longer.
Sure.
Less time and more pollution based. And up to now, I've been polluting so little that the enemies are like kind of way behind me tech wise, I guess you would say. So I'm like, I'm still safe for now. So when I land on this new planet, it won't be too much of a problem to just manually kill stuff. I've got like uranium ammo. So I've got the best physical gun ammo. I do actually also have nukes if I want to, but that's almost overkill at this point. Unless it's a particularly big alien base. Haven't got orbital deployed nukes yet. That's the end game of space exploration's weapons. Put the nukes in the railguns. And then just fire them. Orbital strikes.
Orbital strikes.
Can we not have a railgun that fires dogs? We clearly know that's the worst weapon, right?
Yeah, the dog launcher.
Dog launcher.
Rough gun.
I haven't actually tested to see how devastating firing the railgun at nothing by itself is, like the regular railgun. Because that does destroy stuff. I'm not sure if it... Because technically that should do a lot of damage in real life.
Yeah.
Firing a railgun package from orbit that contains 100 plates of iron, that should do a lot of fucking damage.
Yeah, especially at railgun speeds.
Yeah, exactly. You fired from one planet to another. But I don't think it does. I think it does actually really localized damage. Which is a shame.
Still watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah.
The last episode I watched, there was actually a dog launch.
Okay.
I mean, that suits that show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's consistently stupid. That's all I can say now. It's just consistently stupid. They buy a motherfucking massive submarine at one point. It's just like, they buy one. It's real stupid.
I think that's everything I did, apart from Derg and Rocket League. Halloween's coming up in Derg.
Yeah. I'm still having lemon runs at the moment in Rocket League, which isn't helping.
I feel like I've been doing okay again. I've got out of the lemon patch for me for a little while.
Played a bit of that there, hoops.
Oh, on the new map.
The block party hoops, yeah. Although it hasn't picked it very much. It's been putting me still back in the dunk house.
Out of the two options, it hasn't been picking very much. Man.
It's still putting me in the dunk house.
Unlike the regular Rocket League where there's a lot of options and when there's a new map, you're like, I'm never going to see it. You'd think you'd see the one in hoops 50% of the time, in fact.
Don't get me wrong, I have played on it, but it was in fact the very first time I tried to do it, it put me there. But it might have done it twice in a row at the start, and then now I haven't seen it since.
Quite ridiculous.
Yeah. I just remembered a couple of things I didn't talk about. I'm not going to really go into them here. I played You Suck at Parking, which came out on Game Pass.
Right.
I don't really know what to say about it. It's one of those hey, try and negotiate the physics to park your car that you can't stop.
Right.
Precisely in this space, but do it from a top-down perspective. And so the single player is do that 3 times in a row without dying, and you'll get the 3-star rating, I guess. A bit like a mobile game, that classic formula. Go, just keep going. That's all that is. The multiplayer is the weirdest part, where it's there's a few maps, and it's basically a race to see if you can park in every space before someone else manages to. It's got the same problem that Turbo Golf Racing does, I think. It's not
interaction.
It's not that interactive.
Right.
You can hit other cars and like knock them out of the space you're trying to park into, like use them as brakes and all that stuff. But it's not that. Everyone just splits off in different directions and goes down all. And it's also a memory game. You've got to remember where the spot. That's how you win. You remember the map and remember where the spaces are.
Oh, right.
It's not that interesting. It has a season pass, which is ridiculous if you ask me. Like, why does that game have that? Anywho, I'm also playing a bit more Redout too, and I got some of those speed events done that I was struggling with. I don't know if they've tweaked it or whatever, but like managed to actually make some progress. But that game's just not hooking me. I don't know why. It's fine, like, but it's all right. Anyway, I played those as well.
Okay.
Games
Games
that have been played.
Camel.
Possibly melon.
Yeah. Camel was always like when we played, like, was it Melee that started? Yes. Like Smash Brothers Melee, and you'd if you squinted, the fact that it said game ! Would look a little bit like camel.
Nice. Well, is that you then, Rob?
Yeah, and me.
Okay.
I shall say yes for Rob, just to make sure.
Cool.
Yep, I can arrange this.
Okay.
we can Zach's now my PA.
Well, we did finish our Into the Breach run, but we had a bit of trouble recovering the video. But I think it's going to be available.
Yeah, it will be available eventually.
It will come. You can check that out. I haven't played any of that myself after finishing that run, but that was quite fun. It was a good one. We need to think of a next video topic. I think we haven't got the solidest of ideas. Solidest? Most solid.
We're not playing Metal Gear.
But it is solidest. Solidus is the dumbest character. Like, why? He's the president of the United States, and he's got like a giant octopus suit, so he looked like Doc Ock, and he's got an eye patch. Why? That was so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it's this Kojima school of character development, isn't it? It's like, you can't just have one thing. You've got to have many things.
Well, I mean, once you establish there are clones of Big Boss, you can have as many as you like. But like, Liquid Snake has an actual character, is quite different to Solid Snake and the boss, right? The boss? Sure. Big Boss, sorry. Not the boss. The boss is the other guy. Girl. The lady, yeah. Who, with the big fight in the flowers and everything. But Solidus, yeah. What happens to Solidus? Does he get killed in Metal Gear?
Oh, I don't
2?
know.
Solid 2, I mean. I can't even remember.
I guess.
Yeah.
He must.
Because they had to do him, I guess, because that was the twist at the end of Metal Gear Solid 1, right? At the end of the credits or whatever. It's like Revolver Ocelot's like, yeah, yes, sir, Mr. President. Like, he's been working for the president all the time. It's another clone of Big Boss. And then it was just a really dumb character. Metal Gear Solid 2. Anyway, Metal Gear. But yeah, we will have a solid plan for upcoming videos.
Or a liquid plan.
Or a liquid plan. Liquid Snake.
I was about to say, we might have a gaseous plan.
Hopefully not.
Gaseous Snake is the other phase of that. Plasma Snake.
It's just a dog.
Gaseous Snake is just a dog. Well, not a diamond dog, though. D-Dog.
I mean, maybe it is. Maybe D-Dog is gaseous Snake.
It is gaseous Snake. Could well be. I mean, you just find him in the desert in Afghanistan. I don't know why there was like a kind of husky type dog just in the middle of Afghanistan, but worth sending back to Mother Base anyway.
D-Horse B.
D-Horse.
Maybe D-Snake.
Bose-Einstein condensate snake.
Plasma Snake.
Plasma Snake. What other states of matter are there? Superheated snake.
Colloid snake?
Colloid? The heck is colloid?
I can't remember. Isn't it some sort of like
Probably.
two liquids living with each other in some weird way?
In some kind of colloid.
Emulsion snake.
Emulsion snake. Emulsion snake sounds too likely. I think there probably is already emulsion snake somewhere in there.
It'll be the subtitle to a game, when it'll be like Metal Gear Emulsion.
Yeah, I mean that's sounding a bit too Gears of War. That's the problem. That's the gears are related.
Emulsion, of course.
Yeah.
Man, all that juice.
Is Gears of War dead now, or is it?
I don't think they haven't finished. They haven't finished the second trilogy.
Right. Okay.
Gears 6 will happen eventually.
We've got another episode.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
What else is that studio going to do?
Well, nobody knows because they've never done anything else.
No, they were made to take over Gears from Epic.
Yeah.
Just like 343 was made to make Halo.
Yeah.
Weird.
I can't even remember what that studio's called now, but anyway. Yeah, the Gears guys.
Gears guys. Well, I think that might be it for this podcast. So look out for the Into the Breach video and then further videos beyond that. And we'll be back with more video games and news and random and waffle in a couple of weeks. So we'll catch you then. Bye.
Bird's eye potato waffle.
Waffly versatile.